To the Deeper Dive presented by SuperDraft.io or in the App Store. I'm Dave Lochran, with me, Adam Sharon. We've got a wild 9-gamer to discuss. Glad to have everyone with us, as always, for the next hour. All right, so there's a lot here, Adam. I mean, there's a lot of injuries, just a lot of moving parts on this one. We've got about 57 minutes to make it happen.
Yeah, I think the craziest slate that we've gotten in a while, just as far as a lot of moving parts, a lot of bad players that are going to be playing big minutes. It should be interesting.
As Victor Oladipo is ruled out right now, so that's one domino falling, and hopefully we'll get more throughout the next 54 minutes. That's still 57 minutes. Wouldn't be 54, it'd be 56, but I'm bad at math. Anyway, before we jump into it, SuperDraft is the sponsor of the Deeper Dive. Complete lineup freedom. There's no salaries there. It's all multipliers. What do I mean? Well, I'll tell you. Luka Doncic, 1x. You play him, he scores 60 fantasy points. You know what you get? 60 fantasy points. What about Markelle Fultz? 1.6. So if Markelle Fultz goes out and he has one of those very rare and uncommon, generally never to happen again, 40 fantasy point games, well, you know what? You get 64 fantasy points. That's how the multipliers work. It's a wonderful thing. It's different. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just making it spin a little smoother. And you can play anybody you want. It doesn't mean you should be playing Doncic and Lillard and Beal and Russell in the same lineup, but if you wanted to, you could. And you can also get $20 in free super cash to be used on the site. It's as good as real money, to win real money, to play real money. Like tonight's $36,000 jump shot with $7,000 up top, $12 to enter. All you got to do is use the promo code Awesemo. It's AWESEMO. When you do that, sign up, deposit $100 or more. Boom, you get $20 right there. Deposit $100, you get $20 into your account, and you're in business. Go take down something big over there at SuperDraft. Download it in the App Store or go to SuperDraft.io. And also, for those of you that, either like PGA or like free stuff, tonight, you want to be here for the PGA Live Before Lock show, because we'll be giving away 20 free tickets to their $15 main golf contest. $15 to enter. We're giving away 20 free tickets. You watch, find out how it's done, and take down some money. Good luck to everyone. Check it out, superdraft.io or in the App Store. Use that promo code Awesemo to get your $20 in free super cash upon signing up and depositing. All right, you ready?
Yep, let's go.
Let's do it, man. Milwaukee, Baltimore. Did I just say Baltimore?
Milwaukee and who?
Did I say Baltimore?
Yes.
There's not that. There's not even.
There's not a Milwaukee football team, and there's not a Baltimore basketball team. I don't know where you're going.
That's amazing. I was like racking my brain to think of where that could have come from. No idea. None whatsoever.
No idea.
Milwaukee, Indiana, not even close. Big favorites at home. Even against good teams, they're heavy favorites. It's just the way it is. It opened at 11 points, and Vonnie says Laffy ready for MLB. No, I can't even use that as an excuse. Haven't really looked at much yet.
Wrong league there too.
What?
Wrong leagues there too.
Well, he's saying Baltimore. There's a Baltimore team.
Yeah. There's at least a Milwaukee team and a Baltimore team. Yeah.
Right. Milwaukee laying 10.5 points now, 222 total. I want to start with Giannis because it's also a slate with Doncic going up against a very fast-paced New Orleans team in a game that has a monstrous total hovering around 240 or 241, depending on where you're looking. And then you've got a few others, but no real incredible top-tier talent, at least not a lot of them concentrated at the top today. What are you doing with Giannis against the Pacers?
I think that this is another slate where he looks more appealing on a site like FanDuel, where there's more specific roster construction, because the forwards in general, with a couple of exceptions, but the forwards in general in the slate, I don't think the position's as deep as the guard positions. So he's a little more valuable there. Whereas on a site like DraftKings, where there's a lot of multi-position eligibility and you kind of have to compare guys across positions a little bit more, I still think Giannis is obviously good. He's the best per minute producer in the league. He's averaged 1.93 DraftKings points per minute in games that Chris Middleton has played this year. But he's still the most expensive player on the slate. You still have someone like Luka who's less expensive. You have a lot of really good guard options and enough guys that you can kind of move around. So more of a secondary option for me on DraftKings. I think he'll look better on FanDuel.
Do you have interest in the rest of the Bucks? You touched on a little bit here, but like Bledsoe sub 6K on DraftKings. A few of these guys are coming in at decent prices. On the injury front, you don't have much. Kyle Korver's out. George Hill's expected to play. But outside of Giannis, can we get to anything, or do we need to?
Yeah, I think Eric Bledsoe looks really good. George Hill's out for Milwaukee, so
I'm sorry, he is out.
Yeah, and Bledsoe's played 10 games without Hill this year. He's played at least 32 minutes in 7 of them. The per minute production for Bledsoe this season's been good. There's been no issues there. It's just been a matter of he's averaging 27 minutes per game for the year. But if you can get him up to 32 plus minutes here because of Hill being out, I think he's pretty clearly underpriced given that he's priced for his normal role. So Bledsoe, I think, actually looks like the most appealing guy from the Bucks to me.
Yeah, and if you're talking about minute concerns when it comes to Eric Bledsoe, it's not something to be terribly worried about. 21 minutes last game, 22 before that. There are definitely a few things to worry about, but 2 of them were blowouts, one in winning and one in losing fashion. How many minutes are you giving him here? Because prior to that, he had played a close game against Washington. I know it went to OT, but he played 33, and then a regulation win against Toronto, he played 34. So it seems really just nonsensical to think that Budenholzer is going to drop him 10 minutes per game as they come down the home stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 32 minutes here. Like I said, he's played 10 games without Hill. He's averaged 31.3 minutes per game in those games. He's averaged 26.1 minutes per game in games that Hill has played. So I'm willing to go to 31, 32 minutes here.
Okay. On the Pacers side, Victor Oladipo has been ruled out. It doesn't mean we saw Aaron Holiday play 35 minutes last time, did absolutely nothing, but he played 35 minutes. So there's that. But with Victor Oladipo out, it will open a little bit up. It's just a matter of on this 9-game slate with, so many options from Boston and Cleveland and elsewhere from a value standpoint. I wonder if it's enough to look at anyone from this team.
It still doesn't make anyone a priority for me. Like, I think Malcolm Brogdon's a little underpriced. You're getting huge minutes from him and from TJ Warren in these games where Oladipo is out with Jeremy Lamb also out. So I think if you're expecting around 35, 36 minutes from Brogdon, he's a little underpriced, but there's just so many good guard plays on this slate that I still don't think he's a priority. It's obviously a tough matchup against Milwaukee. You mentioned 35 minutes from Aaron Holiday last game. In his previous start, he played 30. So, expecting somewhere between 30 and 35 minutes, but his rates just go down when he's starting alongside Brogdon as opposed to in place of Brogdon. So it's really tough to get excited about him. Looks a little bit better on FanDuel at 3,700, but as you mentioned, there's tons of value on this slate. There's a lot of opportunity cost at the guard positions as well. So I think that Oladipo being out, it does give a little bit more usage to guys. It opens up a little bit more playing time for a few guys like Brogdon and Warren in addition to Holiday, but still nothing enough to make someone a priority for me here.
Yeah, I mentioned the Sal this morning on the strategy show that one of the reasons the Bucks are allowing the most 3-point attempts and threes per game is and have the best defense in the league is more than anything because they're just ahead by so much. They have the best point differential ever at this point in the year. Teams are forced to jack up 100 threes per game. So the more I look at this, I'm not really sure how much to read into, hey, Milwaukee struggles in this category. Because when you look at why this is happening, why such high volume of threes is happening, it's likely because they're down by 30 points in the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me, if you're looking for a positive against Milwaukee, is how fast they play. So
right,
you do get more possessions. They're a good defense, and I think that to some extent they do kind of they're willing to give up threes.
Yeah, they're like 16th or 17th, so it's middle of the road. But I'm saying it's not like they're not bottom 5 in 3-point percentage. It's not just like a huge glaring weakness.
Right, exactly. They don't like suddenly turn into the Wizards or the Hawks or something if you shoot from beyond the 3-point line.
Man, I watched that Wizards game last night. Them erasing that deficit was great, but It was amazing how they just let anyone walk into the paint and score.
I didn't watch it. I was just too busy being mad because I had Buddy Hield in like half my lineups, and he had 30 points at halftime and finished the game with like 31.
Oh, he pulled a Danilo Gallinari.
Exactly.
We had a one of our viewers tweet us. He said Bledsoe's been struggling with an illness per Bucks commentators in Miami game, hence less minutes. So
cool.
I'm inclined to believe him. I like this guy. Anything else from Indy? Do you want to get into the front court any further?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I would say overall, you do have Bledsoe, you do have Giannis, but it is one of the more appealing games collectively. Or I'm sorry, less appealing games collectively. The next one, though, is going to take us some time. Cleveland and Boston. The Cleveland Cavaliers are 3.5-point dogs here, 216 total. The first few games we're going to talk about, all of them have pretty low totals, actually. But the injuries are profound. So a lot of places had Tatum, or I shouldn't say a lot of places, but there was a lot of thinking that Tatum would not play today earlier this morning. He's now probable, but Kemba Walker's out. Jaylen Brown is out. Gordon Hayward's out. Do we have any news on Marcus Smart? I'm assuming he's playing.
He's not on the injury report. The only thing I've seen was like the Roto World speculation that maybe he will get suspended for.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Going after a ref last night, but like I haven't seen any sort of
me neither
that actually being a legitimate thing.
And if you look at the video, you had somebody quote unquote holding him back, but it wasn't like he was lunging to, to gouge the ref's eyes out or something like that. So
and normally I think with situations like this, if he were to be suspended, it would probably be for next game anyway.
I don't know how that works for basketball.
I'm not sure either. It just seems like it would be a really quick turnaround time for them to decide to suspend someone.
Yeah, they let him know at like 6:45 tonight.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. So let's assume that he's in, Jason Tatum in, but you're down Brown, you're down Gordon Hayward, and you're down Kemba Walker. That's huge here, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the other side of this game. No Andre Drummond, no Darius Garland. McKinney not getting a ton of run, but he's still somebody that could have been in the rotation here. And Tristan Thompson is questionable. So first and foremost, do you have Thompson in or out?
I have him out right now.
So
obviously 7:00 game, so we'll know.
All right, so let's assume that he is out and take a look at the last game that they played. One thing that is glaringly obvious is JB Bickerstaff doesn't really intend on running a deep bench, even if he were to have it, it seems. He played 7 guys. I'm not including Mooney. I'm not including Dean Wade in blowout time. Sexton played 40 minutes. Nance almost played 40. Love played 32. Porter played 41. And Cedi Osman played almost 40 minutes. Ante Žižić played 17. Dellavedova played 29 off the bench. So with the assumption that Tristan Thompson sits, you have to go back with similar thinking that, hey, these guys are going to play monster minutes today, especially young guys like Colin Sexton and Kevin Porter Jr.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. And it's scary because I never really feel good about projecting a team to just run 7 guys when I know that they have more players available. They also just signed someone with like the best name in the league to a 10-day contract. I already forgot it. Sir something. But so they have the bodies, which makes it a little scary. But obviously we saw a legitimate 7-man.
Tristan Thompson ruled out.
Perfect.
Look at that timing, huh?
Yeah, great.
How about that? Go ahead.
So obviously last game you saw the 7-man rotation. Projecting this one, I'm projecting a little bit more playing time for guys than I did going into the last game. I still didn't kind of have the stomach to go with a legitimate 7-man. I gave like 8 minutes to Mooney, but for all intents and purposes, I have all these guys playing 36 plus minutes. I've Love at 34, but I think that it's an appealing spot once again because Boston should be hurt defensively. Obviously they still have Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum, but other than that, they're running out basically their G League squad. And so I think that they should be hurt a little bit defensively, and you're just getting a ton of minutes, a ton of usage without Drummond, without Garland, without Thompson, and also rebounding without Drummond and Thompson. So I think the Cavs should be more productive than normal. I think Kevin Love looks really good. I think Porter and Sexton both look really good. Larry Nance looks like a really good play again. His salary's come up a bit, but you should get 36 plus minutes without Thompson or Drummond in the lineup once again.
Okay. Yeah, there's There's a lot of injuries too, and not just the ones that we discussed. Now that Thompson's out, but Dante Exum's also out. Um, Again, McKinney, this Windler fella, is on the roster. He just isn't playing for the rest of the season. Not to
Sir
say
Dominic Pointer is the name that I was looking for.
what is it?
Sir Dominic Pointer.
Okay, brothers with Sir Anthony Dominguez.
Sisters with Ms. Unique Pointer.
Really?
Yeah,
Who's that?
twin sister.
Oh, okay. And by the way, I'm joking. That was
I remember the Phillies pitcher.
yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm saying the whole first name thing.
Oh.
Assuming familial relation. Yeah. So, what do you think? What do you think? Bickerstaff runs like 9 today. Keep in mind too, Dellavedova played 29. Adam, that's a lot. So he could play less than that, and everyone else still plays a ton of minutes in the starting lineup.
Right, and that's the thing. I'm not comfortable saying that he only plays 7 guys, but the information we have is that we just had this exact same situation, and he played 7 guys. He had, he had Wade, he had Mooney on the bench. So I'm not projecting like the rotation to be deep here. I basically gave enough minutes to Mooney to make it so that I wasn't just jamming 40-minute, medium projections onto all of the main Cavs guys, but I still have 34 minutes for Love. I have 38 apiece for Nance, Porter, and Sexton. I have 36 for Chetty. I my expectation is that they're on a similar rotation the last time.
So same with me. Like I said, I feel most confident about Porter and Sexton to get those minutes. And I think Nance will be fine as well. But with all that said, now that we've kind of broken down or done our best to analyze this rotation, how are you prioritizing these players on Cleveland compared to the rest of the slate?
I think that the pricing has come up on DraftKings enough to where they're good plays, but I wouldn't expect to be getting like a bunch of them in the same lineup like I was against Utah, where they were all cheaper. But I do think that especially Porter and Sexton, because their salaries didn't really move that much, are still good. I think Kevin Love's still a really good option. So those 3 on DraftKings I probably get to the most, followed by Nance. On FanDuel, the salaries are still incredibly cheap. 5,400 for Larry Nance, I think, is clearly a priority. 6,600 for Love looks good. 5,700 for Sexton is really good. And then a 5K small forward option in Kevin Porter. So I think on FanDuel, I end up with a lot of lineups with 4 Cavs.
Yeah. Instead of even naming him, you just be like, all right, on FanDuel, and we'll know what you mean. Because none of them are going to be accurately priced anyway.
Well, right.
So, but at the same time, Larry Nance at that price, regardless of really what or who is priced around him, is pretty appealing. Do you want to talk Boston here?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. All right. So no Kemba, no Jaylen Brown, no Gordon Hayward. And not only did they take that loss at home in overtime, but they lost several players as a result. Kemba Walker obviously not expected to play on the second of a back-to-back, but still Hayward and now Jaylen Brown. Fortunately, they will have Jason Tatum. I want to start with him though, because he's very expensive. He's $9,900 on DraftKings, and he's been fantastic. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt here. But it's only fair that I kind of preface it with, hey, this guy's getting up there, and his price is beginning to reflect his production. He's $9,300 on FanDuel. Let's kick it off with him, man. There's no Hayward, there's no Walker, there's no Brown, and there is a Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, I think your point is a good one, because it's very clearly a phenomenal spot for Tatum without all of those guys out there. He's played about 124 minutes without them on the floor this year, has a 40% usage rate. If you just take off Brown and Kemba so that you can get a little bit bigger sample size, his usage rate's still 35.7%. And he clearly is in a good spot against Cleveland. He's the number 1, 2, and 3 options on this offense. So all that's great. Your point about the salary, though, is important, because while I would still say he is a little bit underpriced for this matchup and the current situation, it's not like you're getting, the normal $7,300 Jason Tatum in this situation. Like, he does still actually have to go out there and put up a monster game for you to be happy that you played him. I think he projects like he will. I think there's a good chance that he will, but there is at least some pretty significant risk because of his salary.
Okay. When you're comparing him to the rest of the players atop their positions and atop the player pool, Beal and Doncic and Giannis, Do you have any issues getting the Tatum at this price?
No, I have him on DraftKings, factoring in salary. I still have him as the third best play behind Luka and Giannis. On FanDuel, I have him. I'm guessing is the top play.
All right.
Looking now.
Keeping it moving here.
Yeah, top power forward play for me. Him and Nance just blowing everyone away.
Yeah, it makes sense. What about Marcus Smart? He's up north past that 7K threshold on DraftKings. He's $6,500 on FanDuel. Assuming he plays, can you get there?
Yeah, I don't think that it's obviously not quite as appealing as it was when we thought that Tatum wasn't going to play today. The usage drops off for him. Again, if you look at the numbers without Kemba or Jalen on the floor to get to a bigger sample, you get like a 22.5% usage rate for Smart, about a 26.8% assist percentage. I expect him to play around 36 minutes here. Cleveland has been the least efficient defense in the league since the start of January. They also have the highest turnover percentage in the league. So you should be able to run into some defensive stats for Smart as well. I think he's a good play. I don't think he's quite as favorable, even when you factor in price, as Jason Tatum is. I think that he's comparable to when factoring in price to someone like Eric Bledsoe.
Okay. I also have a couple other guys in that price range that we'll get to shortly. What about the value players here? Kemba, Brown, and Hayward being off. Brad Wanamaker's played 353 minutes without him this year. He's got 8.8 fantasy points per minute. Not bad. Not great. 22% assist rate, 18% usage rate. It's kind of what you would expect from him. And then a few other guys like Carson Edwards and, the Grant Williams and Javonte Greens of this world. Green at 0.86 fantasy points per minute, 15% usage, no real assists, 10% rebounding. So you're not getting spectacular numbers no matter who's off the floor, but there should be opportunity for minutes here, and that's worth talking about.
Yeah, there should. The Celtics do. The cheap guys really scare me though, with Tatum being back. They're not short on bodies. Obviously, they're missing high usage guys in Hayward, Brown, and Kemba, but they still have a ton of bodies here. And we've seen like over and over again that Brad Stevens runs or prefers to run deep rotations when he can. We've had I don't know how many games this year where everyone assumes Brad Wanamaker is going to start, and then he comes off the bench and disappoints everyone. I don't know if he starts today or comes off the bench. I have him in for 26 to 28 minutes here. I think that he's a good value. Like, he still projects as a good point per dollar option. Like you said, around 0.8 fantasy points per minute on average. This is an above average matchup, and there is still extra usage to go around with all those guys out. So I think he projects well, but we have him right now projected to be the second highest owned guy on the slate. It is a 9-game slate. There are plenty of ways to make a lineup that don't involve a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy that has a very realistic chance of playing 26 or 27 minutes. So I don't know that, especially in large field tournaments, that I would want Wanamaker to be like my second. I think it's a spot where you can get away from him in large field tournaments with relatively low risk.
Yeah, I absolutely think you can. And not that, the total in this game is everything, but it's going to be a pretty slow paced game. Second lowest total on the night. Anything else for? Go ahead.
I was going to add kind of the difference for me, like on a slate like this, between a really good point per dollar projection like you have with Wanamaker. I have him at like 22, a little over 22 DraftKings points, and still not really being that risky of a guy to get away from in tournaments. It's like, if you just look at last night, it's the same kind of thing where there's going to just be guys that do well that are a little bit lower probability, lower medium projection, but a lot lower ownership. And I think this is going to be a high enough scoring slate where all points are really going to matter. And if you get, even at 3,500, let's say Wanamaker goes for like 24 DraftKings points, you're probably, if you don't have him, you're probably not going to be in a position where you're, screwed and you can't win a tournament. Obviously it doesn't hurt you if you do have him and he scores 24, but I just think that there's enough plays on this slate where rostering a low production guy at really high ownership isn't really something you need to do.
Do you have anything else from this game since there's so much?
Not really. I think there would have been more if Tatum weren't playing, but him playing, just knocks down all these other guys.
Detroit and OKC, the Thunder pretty healthy favorites away from home, 8.5 points, 209.5 total. This game has a really, really low total. And it makes sense, but there's actually a decent amount to talk about, at least on one side of this. So the Detroit Pistons are pretty much just decimated. They have been all year, even like for not even including Drummond being gone and Griffin being done, but there's a lot happening here. And it starts with Derrick Rose. Well, first Reggie Jackson getting shipped over to LA. Derrick Rose is now out for the foreseeable future. And then Bruce Brown, he's not going to be on the floor either. So there's so much to talk about. Also, what is going to be the situation when we get to when you're looking at this backcourt, Adam? Is Brandon Knight going to play? And if he does, how many minutes are we going to get from him? So let's just start from there and we'll work our way down through the front court.
Yeah, so we have Brandon Knight questionable. We also have Jordan McRae available to make his debut for the Pistons tonight. That's really big news because obviously I don't know how many minutes he's going to play and he's not in the player pool. But if they hadn't just claimed him off waivers, you were going to have a ton of usage to go around and a ton of minutes. But this is another team where you have a lot of really unproductive guys on a per minute basis in a tough matchup against OKC. And there's still a lot of bodies here. You still have Jordan Bowen, you have McRae, Knight, questionable. I would guess that if Knight plays, you get 26, 27 minutes. He's been around 0.9 to 0.95 DraftKings points per minute. He would look like a decent value, but I do think that he probably loses some usage, assuming that McRae does play. I think that it takes a little bit in the way of playing time and or usage away from Svi, who's also really cheap. It basically makes I didn't think Detroit was all that appealing anyway, just because we've seen Dwayne Casey running really deep rotations and he still has the bodies to do so. I think McRae being added is a pretty big deal and makes them even less appealing.
Yeah, how the hell is he available already?
The Suns wanted him, and Detroit was ahead of them on waivers, I guess.
No. I mean, didn't they just sign him this afternoon?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
I mean, well, the Grizzlies did that with Tolliver the other night.
Yeah, it's weird, but at least we have that. And that news just broke literally 1 minute ago.
Yeah,
that he's available. Bruce Brown ruled out as well. Man, we're getting lucky today, huh? Look at that. So would you put yourself in a position where you could say there are some priorities here with Bruce Brown out, with Rose out, with Jackson gone? Like, if Knight plays, do you think there's any ways with this Pistons team, by the way, having the lowest implied total of anyone on the slate by more than 5 points, that it makes sense to say, there's enough bodies out here, or there's enough guys on the shelf that I just have to pull the trigger?
I don't see anything as priorities here. I think that you can get to some Christian Wood, some Brandon Knight, some, cheap Svi, but none of them look like top plays to me in the context of the slate.
All right. Well,
just because there are still so many bodies and it's not a good matchup.
Yeah, that's fair. How many minutes did you say you were going to give Knight?
I have him at 26 right now. 26. I think he could get more, but
yeah, I think he might get considerably more. But
I had him at 28 or 30, and then with McRae, I kind of just took a couple away.
Yeah, that's the problem, and it's one of those things where somebody being available in their first game, they might not really play. But I think you're right. Dropping him down 4 or 5 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, maybe, seems to make a good amount of sense here. Derrick Rose did in that last game, got hurt, did not return. So the second half, Brandon Knight started. He played 16 minutes in the second half. If McRae was out, I would have put him north of 30, but yeah, this makes a big difference. I mean, I guess the question now is how much you can't run McRae out there, number one, because he's not in the player pool, and number two, because you'd have no idea what he's getting. But it does kind of throw a wrench now into the works of like Brandon Knight and such. So, and Svi Mykhailiuk is just not a productive guy, but he's getting ownership.
Yeah, and the other reason that I feel okay about kind of projecting these guys maybe a little bit low in terms of minutes is that we've seen Dwayne Casey multiple times already where you look at it and it's like, oh, X, Y, and Z guy for Detroit is out. This guy needs to play big minutes. And then Dwayne Casey's like, yeah, no, we have this guy on the end of the bench that you didn't know was on the roster, and he's going to play 18 minutes instead. Like he hasn't been doing what Cleveland did last game, or he's been doing the exact opposite of it.
Danilo Gallinari confirmed in. Look at this, man. We just keep getting it. By the way, Aaron Holiday starting for Oladipo, but we knew that. On the OKC side, like, yes, Detroit's a bad team, but this will be a crawling game. And we said it last night on several occasions, like where's the production coming from on a 9-game slate where there's just so many good plays on so many other games? Can you feel good about OKC here?
I don't really think so. I was more interested when I thought there was a good chance that Gallo wasn't going to play, but since he's going to play his first back-to-back since November, it does take usage away from the guards. I think that Detroit's a bad team defensively, but they also play incredibly slow. Like I think Steven Adams should have his way rebounding against this front court, but he's also not exactly cheap, and there's some other good center options. So I don't really see a whole lot that I like from either side of this game.
All right. If you had to pick a top play, who would it be?
Brandon Knight from Detroit and Steven Adams from OKC.
Yeah, it would still be Brandon Knight for me. I just don't have nearly as much confidence. New York Knicks, Utah Jazz. Here's another one. Should be exciting. I said there's a lot of games early on with low totals. Well, we hit on 1, 2, 3. This is another one. Bottom 4, 219.5. That used to be high. Jazz are 8-point favorites on the road against the Knicks. We'll start with New York here. No real big news outside of waiting on Mitchell Robinson. Do you think he plays, and does it matter to you?
I have him in, and it only matters to me in that if he doesn't play, it opens up minutes for a really cheap Bobby Portis or Taj Gibson. But I don't think that I don't see Robinson as a great play. So
no,
I'm not
neither.
that concerned about it.
I mean, there's always the idea that against a big front court, it is more suitable that if he is active, he's probably going to get more reliable minutes than against like Houston, where he played 24 minutes last time out. But his price is getting up there, where it's a little bit more difficult to get to him. What are you doing with New York?
Not a whole lot of anything. Utah has been really bad defensively lately, but I just still don't think there's a whole. I don't think the pricing on the Knicks is all that appealing. Julius Randle's minutes have been down a little bit. Even if I give him 33 minutes here, he kind of just looks like a marginal play to me. Like I would rather go to someone like Kevin Love. There's a couple other forward options that look really good too. Robinson, Peyton, Barrett, I think all priced pretty much where they should be. If Robinson's in, there's nothing really from the Knicks that I like.
Okay. How about Utah?
I think they look a little bit better since, they do have the favorable matchup against the Knicks. Donovan Mitchell is playing 35, 36 minutes in most games. In games with Conley this year, he has a little over a 32% usage rate. Guard's just really, really deep, so still a secondary play for me there. Maybe some Bojan Bogdanovic, particularly on FanDuel. He was really low owned last game against Cleveland. Price tag didn't really move, still 5,300. And if people are so you still have him basically at that same price as Kevin Porter. I think he works as a tournament pivot off of Porter. Rudy Gobert, a secondary center option as well, but nothing I'm prioritizing. I do like the Jazz side more than the New York side though.
All right, so nothing prioritized. I'll ask this then. Probably an easy question, but just to kind of wrap this one up quickly, who would be your favorite 1 and 2 plays from this game?
Mitchell and Bogdanovic, particularly again on FanDuel for Bogdanovic.
Okay. Well, this is why we can spend more time on games like Cleveland, Boston, because some games just don't have nearly as much. We'll get to Miami and Orlando now, and it's another one. So of the five lowest totals, we've already hit on all of them. This is 219.5. Not that matters, but just try and get that information out there. They're 7-point. The Heat are 7-point favorites. No Tyler Hero, no Myers Leonard. The same thing we've been saying. What are your thoughts on Goran Dragic? Because in close games, you're getting 30+ minutes from him right now. He's $5,800 on DraftKings, which is really a decent price. He's $5,500 on FanDuel. We'll get to Butler. We'll get to Bam Adebayo, but I want to start with Dragic because I do think that price point stands out a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty decent price. I don't like the matchup against Orlando. They're a really slow team. They're good defensively. Yeah. And the salary to me is just a little bit too close to someone like Eric Bledsoe. He's not that much less expensive than like a Colin Sexton on FanDuel. It's really close to Sexton. So, I agree with you. The minutes should be there, assuming the game's close. But I think he's a little bit more expensive than I would like in this particular matchup.
I'd rather play Kobe White.
That's another one. Yep.
A little bit more expensive. I don't mind Dragic though. And if I'm looking at this game as a whole, I was surprised earlier today, by the way, And of course, our ownership projections, are fluid. They change throughout the day. You get a lot of news that rolls in and things change. But Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson are both projected for double-digit ownership. What are your thoughts on those two?
I don't really get it. I understand that Robinson's cheap and Butler's a little underpriced too, but I still don't like the matchup against Orlando. I don't have trouble finding other guys that I like. Like there's clearly a ton of value on the slate without going to a low per minute guy in a bad matchup like Robinson. There's a ton of guys in this $7 to like $8,500 price range. I actually prefer Bam over Butler. Um, Butler in games with Dragic and Bam healthy this year has a 24% usage rate. Bam has a 24% usage rate when he's played with Butler or in games that Butler has played without Hero. You've actually seen a nice usage bump for Bam Adebayo. So if I were going to anyone from Miami, I think Bam actually looks like the most appealing to me.
Okay. Again, not a priority, but of this team, you like him the most.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I like Dragic the most, but I'm not going to argue with that. Duncan Robinson is very much a boom or bust option. He is cheap, Adam, but I mean, it is still against an Orlando team that defensively hasn't been as strong lately. And I know I've said this a lot, but they're still a decent defense. They're still a team that can make life less than appealing for opposing shooters. And the ownership to me was a little bit surprising. I'll tell you that much. But Orlando this season is allowing the 7th highest 3-point percentage to opponents. So if you wanted to use that in favor of rostering Duncan Robinson, I wouldn't blame you. He is cheap and he is expected to play big minutes. All right. What about the other side with Orlando? We expect Aaron Gordon to play. So that kind of just takes away any discussion we'd have about, the Gary Clarks in this world. Not that at all. That would really be an interesting spot, even though he did play 29 minutes last game, but he's actually he's questionable to play here. But with Gordon back, it shouldn't matter too much. Do you have any interest in Orlando from top to bottom?
The only guy that looks appealing to me at all is Vooch, 8,500 on DraftKings. Same price point as Bam. Obviously, not a great matchup for him either, but leading, highest usage guy, highest rebound percentage, highest non-point guard assist percentage for Vooch. So gets it done in a lot of ways, and the minutes have trended up as well. Over his last 10 games, he's averaged just shy of 35 minutes per game, and I still don't think that the price is too expensive. So there's a couple of really good center plays on this slate, but there's not. I don't think at least that it's as deep a position top to bottom as we get on a lot of 9-game slates. So it makes it a little bit easier to get to someone like Vooch, who medium projection is kind of mediocre, but clearly has 50+ point upside here.
Coming up after the show, you've got Live Before Lock. Stick right here. It's Josh Engelman and Fast Eddie Fear. They'll take you up till 7 p.m. Eastern time. Talk a little SuperDraft along the way as well with their 7:30 lock tonight, 7K up top. But I should let you know that if you haven't yet signed up for Awesemo, here's the way to do it. Use that promo code Deeper Dive. It's all one word. It'll get you 50% off your first week of Awesemo Plus, Platinum, all access. You got it. Everything from ownership projections to player projections. You hear us reference them every day on the show. The boom or bust tool. We're coming up close to baseball season. All of our baseball content, the top stacks tool, any sport you can fathom that has DFS content. We've got our contests. We've got content for it. All of our premium articles, the lineup builder, and so much more. There's also the Fantasy Cruncher add-on that you can grab as well on your way out. So go to awesemo.com/join. If you want to check it out, use the promo code Deeper Dive. One word will get you 50% off your first month. And also scroll to the bottom of that page. You'll see videos, basically tutorials on how to use all of our tools, from the lineup builder to the top stacks tool to the premium Slack chat, you name it. We got it all. Check that out and say what's up in the premium Slack chat when you do decide to sign up. Got people talking DFS all day, all night long. All right. That's Deeper Dive, one word. It'll get you 50% off your first week. Brooklyn, Memphis. Here's kind of a fun game to talk about. I thought the total might be a little bit higher here, but I can't say I'm totally surprised. It's 223.5. Nets are 2.5 or 2-point favorites. Believe it or not, since Jaren Jackson went down, the the Memphis Grizzlies are actually playing considerably better defense and at a slower pace. Actually, did you know they're 5 points per possession per 100 possessions worse with Jaren Jackson on the floor this year defensively? But that's not going to stop me from talking about LeVert here. I mentioned him in the syllabus today. He's got a 33% usage rate since Kyrie went down throughout the last month. 25% assist rate, a team leading 1.3 fantasy points per minute. But you know what stood out to me the most, Adam? LeVert's fifth in basketball over the last month with 18 and a half drives per game, second in field goal attempts on 10 drives per game, 10 attempts on drives per game. And he's averaging almost 12 potential assists over that span. So it's really no surprise to see why he's done so well since Irving went down.
Yeah, and it's all kind of come together. Like he's playing better, like you said, he's driving more. The usage is there. He has a higher usage rate over that time than Dinwiddie does, and he's still having his minutes staggered, so he's getting plenty of assist opportunities because he's playing some time without Dinwiddie. So, obviously coming off the monster game last night where he mostly went crazy with the second unit. Dinwiddie wasn't on the floor for most of that. LeVert scored, I think it was 26 points in the fourth quarter. But the point stands that he's been really, really productive since Kyrie went down. And the really important thing is that his salary dropped. He had been up over 8K on DraftKings a couple of games ago.
Yep.
It dropped before yesterday's game, hasn't had a chance to increase again. So only 7,200 on DraftKings and I think 6,300 6K flat on FanDuel.
Which is ridiculous.
Right. So that obviously is just a mispricing, monster ceiling and all of that. You also have Garrett Temple out for this game. So while I'm still projecting the normal 34 minutes for LeVert, there's at least a path for him to get even a little bit more run if that is the route that Kenny Atkinson decides to go.
I'm with you. 14% on DraftKings, in my opinion, is still too low. 26% on FanDuel makes sense. I get that. As you mentioned, 6K flats, just absurd. So play him. 1.55 multiplier on SuperDraft too. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. There's no way he should be there. What are you doing with Dinwiddie and the rest of the Brooklyn Nets?
Dinwiddie, I have, a little bit behind LeVert just because I think they project similarly, but Dinwiddie's a little more expensive. They're also similarly owned on DraftKings, 14% for LeVert to 10% for Dinwiddie. Joe Harris, I think, is kind of interesting. His price tags come up a little bit, but there's the potential for him to play a little bit more with Garrett Temple being out. And Memphis, while they have been playing better defensively for a while now, they have been doing a better job defending around the basket than they have defending around the perimeter. So there's a good chance, I think, that Joe Harris gets some open looks here. Clearly not a priority because we're still talking about a sub 20% usage guy, but I think he could run into a couple more minutes here and potentially, be a nice low owned value.
The guys who have played the most minutes with Jaren Jackson off the floor this season and Brandon Clark are Joval, Brooks, Morant, all of the guys that you would expect. Valanciunas is a 1.35 fantasy point per minute guy, 23% rebound rate on 24% usage with those two off the floor. I mean, you could probably take just Jackson off the floor and we'd be having the same conversation. Morant 1.16. It isn't that Jackson makes a huge difference, but it is still a team that has some voids to fill with him off the floor, and then even bigger voids to fill with Clark off. We have a general idea of what we're going to get now with Taylor Jenkins since we've got a couple games and under our belt, a few games with them out. But listen, Jackson still is a 24% usage guy that is a quality shot blocker. Some of that's going to go to Joval, and his price has come up, but he is expected to be pretty heavily owned on draft. He's $7,100 on FanDuel. He's $7,800 on DraftKings. So on FanDuel, Valanciunas ownership right now, and we'll get another update, is at 18%. On DraftKings, you've got him coming in, at 11%.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with him? We'll start at the front court.
I think he looks good. I mentioned that there's a few center options I really like, but that I don't think there's quite the number at, as many as usual. And Valanciunas is one that I like because we've seen the minutes all season long be pretty volatile, but no Brandon Clark helps to solidify them a little bit. The main thing, though, is that Brooklyn typically gives 48 minutes combined to Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan. So you don't have a stretch five that is going to make it difficult for Valanciunas to stay on the floor. And he's really productive when he's out there. So the price tag did jump a bit, but he was just so underpriced against Atlanta at 6,800 that him being $1,000 more expensive isn't really that scary to me. The ownership's not that high. So I think Valanciunas looks really good. You mentioned, the rebounding numbers being up. There's more usage potentially as well, because you're talking about replacing Jaren Jackson essentially with Kyle Anderson or with Anthony Melton. So there's just more usage to go around. So I think he looks good. I think John Morant looks like a good tournament option. Again, there's a lot of guards that I think look a little bit better in terms of their projection, but that's caused Morant's ownership to come back down below 10% after he burned a lot of people last slate. In competitive games, you're still normally seeing 32 plus minutes from Morant, and high usage, an assist percentage approaching 40%. So I think he looks good. And then you can also take advantage of Dylan Brooks, was really popular last slate. He didn't come through, only played 24 minutes in the blowout, but in his last 4 games, he's taken 26, 22, 24, and 17 shots. Last game, obviously only played 24 minutes, but typically I think you're going to get 34 plus minutes from him. He's not good, but he's just out there chucking up shots, and he's still pretty cheap at low ownership. So that has some appeal in tournaments as well.
John Morant's projected for 7% ownership on DraftKings. Karis LeVert at 14. I mentioned this because they're identically priced. Is that enough for you to say, you know what? I wouldn't mind having a little bit more exposure to John Morant here. Or is Karis LeVert at 14% still low enough to where you're not truly concerned about that?
I think it's enough to, I think that they're both low enough that I like them. Like, I'm not looking to get away from LeVert, but I have them projected within a point of each other. So I also don't think that LeVert should be twice as owned as Morant.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I also don't think LeVert should be only 14% either.
Right.
Anyway, anything else here?
No, I don't think so. The main points for me from Memphis are Morant, Valanciunas, and Brooks.
So Minnesota amazingly pulled that win off yesterday in New Orleans. I facetiously said it was going to be a Chris Boucher night that would win tournaments. You facetiously said that Denver would beat or Golden State would beat Denver outright, and both of them happened.
And I did not make any money off of either of them.
Right? What a crazy night that was last night. It's just so many unpredictable factors or unpredictable outcomes. Minnesota now, they've got Chicago, a Chicago team that will be without Zach LaVine. At one time in the season, you would say their only really reliable scorer, but that's not the case anymore. We'll get there shortly, but let's start with the Timberwolves. 231 total. They're 2-point favorites. It's a little bit more of a difficult team to get excited about, not because these guys can't have some good games. I mean, Naz Reid coming off a great game. James Johnson only playing backup minutes. 21 of them got put up a huge stuffing the stat sheet type of game yesterday. Really, all of these guys, they were shooting almost 60% at the half. It was nuts. But that's all to say that with their prices, can you get behind guys like Naz Reid? Can you get behind guys like a $9,100 D'Angelo Russell? Or Malik Beasley now at $6K, which seems reasonable, but I wouldn't say any of them are particularly cheap is the thing.
Yeah, I don't think they're overpriced. I don't think they're underpriced. Talking
Exactly.
about Beasley, Russell, Reed, and Johnson specifically. Obviously I wouldn't want to play Johnson with Reed since they're playing essentially 48 minutes. Beasley and Russell, they both have high ceilings. You saw Beasley put up another really big game last night. The thing that you want to be careful of, though, is that clearly is in his range of outcomes. He just did it. He's done it multiple times. He also, I don't know where he finished, but I know I looked and I think the fourth quarter, he was shooting 11 for 13. So, the opportunities are there, but that's obviously not the normal game for him. He's about a 23% usage rate in the games that he's played with Russell, second highest on the team, but still not like it's a really, really high usage rate. So I don't really think he's underpriced anymore. I don't think 9,100 for Russell is okay, but you're talking about $800 less for him than for Jason Tatum against the Cavs playing with the rest of Boston's G League team. I would take Tatum, between those two guys. And then you also have all these cheaper guards that we've been talking about. Like, I don't think that $1,900 between D'Angelo Russell and John Morant or Karis LeVert really buys me much more upside than I would get with the cheaper one.
Okay. Let's talk about Kobe White. He's been pretty awesome lately. And now you've got Zach LaVine off the floor. If you were to just take on the season, forget about this great run that that Kobe White's been on. Just take him on the season with Zach LaVine off the floor. He's still averaging well over a fantasy point per minute. 1.09 fantasy points per minute on 27% usage and 20% assists. You take him over the last month, you don't even need to take you seriously don't even need to take LaVine off the floor if you wanted to look at what Kobe White's been doing over that stretch. Adam, he's been very good and he's been aggressive. I said to Sal this morning, I want him to drive to the rim more. There's no reason he should be driving less than 10 times per game, especially being that when he gets to the rim, he's actually putting the ball in the basket and scoring. But 1.39 fantasy points per minute with LaVine off the floor over the last month. And just over the last month in general, 283 minutes, 1.17 fantasy points per minute, 27% usage. These are some nice looking numbers for a low 6K player. And on FanDuel, no surprise here, he is coming in at 6,300, which is actually, I guess, a little bit more reasonable than most guys.
Yeah, I still think that he's priced reasonably. I think that it's starting to at least get to where there's some risk because you're still only expecting typically like 32, 33 minutes from him. He's still pretty scoring dependent. The assists do go up without LaVine, but if he has like a really bad shooting night, it's still going to be tough for him. Obviously there's a lot of shots there, but you also have Porter back, you have Markkanen back, and you have Carter back. So it's not quite the same situation as it was a couple of games ago without LaVine. That being said, he still projects as the top guy from Chicago for me. He's getting a lot of ownership. I think it's deserved. I have him projected for about 35 DraftKings points at 6,200. So I still think he's a good play. I think the salary is just starting to get to a point where it's a little bit riskier because you really need those like 40 plus fantasy point games to be happy that you have him. And there's just more viable pivot options around him that give you the same upside, but he still projects really well for his salary. Okay. And the matchup's really good.
Fair enough. Yeah. I like him a good amount here. There's no rim protection on drives, assuming he wants to get to the rim a bit more. But even if he doesn't, he's been a great shooter. Yeah, he's scoring dependent, but you've definitely seen him bolster those totals a little bit now that he's getting more minutes and more facilitating opportunities. Would I say he's underpriced? No, but I don't think he's overpriced either. And he's been good to me recently. So in a spot against Minnesota where they've been an absolute sieve defensively, I have no problems getting there. I want to get to these final two games, but first, anything else from Chicago that you like here, knowing that Denzel Valentine is going to get likely going to get another start and played really well, but only played 21 minutes last game.
I think Valentine's still an okay value just because he's so cheap. He was more efficient than you would expect last game, played 21 minutes. I have him in for 22 here, but he should have a low to mid 20s usage rate here, and that's enough at 3,800 to make him okay. He's very similar to Wanamaker for me. He projects about the same. I don't think that he has a really, really high ceiling. He is getting a lot of ownership right now. We have him as the 7th highest owned guy on DraftKings. So it's, again, not a guy that I'm going to be upset if I'm under the field in tournaments. But I think that from a point per dollar standpoint, if it opens stuff up for you in cash games, it's fine.
All right. We always appreciate you guys hanging out with us each and every night and helping support the channel and the site and all of us. Easiest way you can do that is by hitting that thumbs up button and liking the video. Just a reminder out there to anybody that's new, we definitely appreciate it, and it helps us a ton. Subscribe and hit that notification bell as well before you head out. Actually, you're going to stick around because Josh and Eddie are coming up next with Live Before Lock. New Orleans and Dallas. Luka Doncic going to be, one of the highest projected players on this slate. I don't know if you're worried about the thumb. There's been a lot of discussion in our super chat with listeners and viewers and everyone. And Sal and I talked about it today, but man, you're talking about a New Orleans team that sure they've been a bit better defensively since Zion came back, but they're still playing at an elevated pace and they're still going to give up points in bunches. How are you going at Luka tonight?
I'm rostering a bunch of him. I guess there's concern about his thumb, but it's on his left hand. He's playing through it. I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's more likely that he's just had a couple of bad shooting games that people can chalk up.
Yeah, he's just shooting really poorly from three, but he's still shooting 40+% in all of those games.
Right.
Overall.
And one thing that does stand out is the minutes. So you don't have Jalen Brunson. Seth Curry's questionable. JJ Barea is questionable. The last 3 games that Luka's played, he's played 37, 38, and 38 minutes. Typically this year, you've been getting like 34 in competitive games, and obviously even less in blowouts. So the fact that he's playing more with the guards being banged up offsets any concerns that I do or don't have about his thumb. With Porzingis in the lineup over the last 10 games they've played together. Porzingis obviously has been getting better as the year's gone on, but still a 37.5% usage rate for Luka, 13% rebounding percentage, and just shy of a 40% assist percentage. He's averaged around 1.6 DraftKings points per minute. It's a pace-up spot against the Pels, who are second in pace since the start of January. They're middle of the pack in terms of defensive efficiency, and Luka is still sub 11K on both DraftKings and FanDuel. So really nothing that's going to make me get away from him.
Aaron Gordon's active for Orlando. I agree with everything you just said, but I'm really not that enticed by much on Dallas outside of Luka. What about you?
I'll throw Porzingis in there because he's, at least last I looked, not getting much. Yeah, he's at 7% ownership on DraftKings, 9K at center. It's a good matchup for him. Like I said, he's been playing better in those last 10 games that he's played and Luka's played. 26% usage, 15.5% rebounding percentage for Porzingis. I think that he's another center option that has a really high ceiling that isn't getting much ownership.
Where are you at on New Orleans? I'll let you run with this since we had a lot to talk about with these early games.
Not a whole lot for me there. Like Zion on a back-to-back, I have him at 32 minutes. Not really sure what to expect there, though. Ingram, I have, at 36 minutes, 27% usage since Zion came back, but not a great matchup against Dallas, and just a lot of other plays in this price range that I think look a little bit better.
Okay. For this whole team?
Yeah.
There's just so many mouths to feed is the problem.
Exactly.
Portland and Washington, let's close it out here. Damian Lillard set to make his triumphant return following an absence pre-All-Star break. Well, really All-Star break and on. It just feels like one of those spots where he's going to go off and everyone's afraid because they don't think Terry Stotts is going to give him the minutes because he's dealing with a groin injury. I really don't know, Adam. But right now you got him projected at 2% at 10K on DraftKings. And I know we'll probably disagree here because it's not somebody that you've seen with as his production is sustainable, which in most cases I would agree. 10% on FanDuel at $9,000. Do you have a good read on how many minutes he's going to play tonight?
I don't. I mean, he's missed basically a month, but part of that was the All-Star break. I have him in at 32 minutes. I've seen, I think, most people projecting him at 30. It's tough for me to go higher. Obviously, I agree with you entirely that he's just such a good player, and because we don't know how many minutes he plays, there is some appeal in tournaments. It's a great matchup.
2% ownership right now.
Right. And I think that, it is just such a good matchup. He is such a good player, and we don't know what the minutes are going to look like. You can guess all you want, but you're guessing.
Right. And keep in mind, I'm not out here saying he's going to play 38, but what I'm saying is I don't know. And if everyone that doesn't know is going to approach it as stay away from him, you're talking about someone that was on one of the most historic runs we've seen and is still one of the best scorers in the world that was playing 40 minutes in regulation, 38 minutes before the injury. So I don't know how to, but if he plays 35 minutes tonight at 9K, you're going to wish you had Lillard against the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say was his typical game is 38 to 40 minutes. So if he plays 33 or 34 minutes, they still took it easy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Maybe Terry Stotts will monitor his minutes today.
Right.
It's tough for me, though, with Lillard back, even assuming he plays 30 to get to much on Portland. But I want to talk to we're running short. No, we're good. What are you doing with the Blazers, knowing that Washington's second of a back-to-back West Coast road trip, brutal team defensively, Thomas Bryant out?
So I will take some tournament shots on Lillard, like you said. I also think Whiteside is still appealing. It's a really good matchup against Washington. They don't rebound well, and Whiteside's production isn't really affected by Lillard, whereas McCollum is markedly different. Melo gets less usage. Whiteside's about the same guy regardless. So I still think Whiteside looks good. He'd be the top guy for me from Portland. And then again, just taking some shots on Dame because of the low ownership.
What are you doing with Washington, knowing that Shabazz Napier and Mo Wagner are both going to have quite a bit of ownership tonight? You can close us out.
Yeah. So Wagner scares me because, again, he's really cheap. He's very capable of just breaking the slate at that price point because he's greater than a 1 fantasy point per minute guy.
He's been terrible.
The thing that really, really concerns me is that the Wizards still have 3 centers not including Rui.
Pasechnik's too. He played yesterday.
Right, he's back. So Bryant's out. Pasek Sneaks is back. Mahinmi's still there. Mo Wagner's played more than 18 minutes once in his last 9 games.
I know.
I have him at 20 here. It gets him to like 20 DraftKings points. I understand why he's getting ownership. I think that it's pretty unlikely that at basically the minimum price that he hurts you, but I think there's a pretty good chance that he plays like 18 minutes again here. So I'm still pretty concerned about him. Napier, I think, is a little bit more appealing because he took the starting job from Ish Smith. Now Ish Smith's doubtful. You've seen, the typical 26-22 or 28-20 split. Now there's not really a backup point guard there. So I think that you can get 32 plus minutes from Napier here. I also think that if you're looking for a lower owned minimum priced guy, Jerome Robinson's only 7%, 3,100. Started the second half over Bonga last game, played 30 minutes. But now also there's just more minutes available, assuming Smith doesn't play. He's been about a 3/4 of a fantasy point per minute guy. So you're getting basically the same production from him that you get from someone like Wanamaker, but at like 1/5 the ownership.
All right. Hey, that'll do it for us. Thanks for hanging out with us. As always, sorry we ran a couple minutes late here, but Josh and Eddie are taking you up to lock. It's the Deeper Dive presented by SuperDraft. Check that out. Use the promo code Awesemo to get $20 free in Super Cash.
Live, NBA Live Before Lock, presented by SuperDraft. I am Josh Engelman. Below me, Fast Eddie Fear. 9-game slate coming up, and this is a bit of a doozy. There's a lot of ugly games to start. Every game from 8 o'clock on is essentially the late night hammer. It's going to be a wild one. Not only that, coming up 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Ben Rasa, Jason Roslin, PGA Live Before Lock, also sponsored by SuperDraft, and we are giving away 20 free tickets to enter their $15 golf contest. You definitely want to tune into that one. Again, this one starts at 8:30 Eastern. We're also doing some SuperDraft convo today. Eddie and I will be sticking around until 7:30. So after our normal lock, we're going to do another 30 minutes on SuperDraft. They have a 6-game slate going tonight. I don't remember the amount. $36,000 jump shot, $7K to first for the NBA. They've got 1,400 entries in now, so 2,000 more to go. We will be focusing on that pretty heavily come 7 o'clock. But get in there, show up for the PGA show so you can get some tickets to their $15 contest. And that's where we stand right now. This is a crazy slate.
Yes, sir.
And there's what I would expect more to come. And I'm just nervous. Troy Daniels to the Nuggets, eh? That is not where I would have expected him to end up.
That's such a deep team already.
Right.
I don't know how he thinks he's in the road. Like, it's really strange because he's leaving a playoff team with better title chances where I'm assuming they wanted him to go and they wanted the spot. So they've made it act like he sort of asked out. I think it's a little more likely they went like, look, there's no way you're going to play here. any chance we can get you to, take a walk? We'll try to get you on another decent team so we can bring in someone we might play. But then he went to the Nuggets where he's not going to play.
They just desperately needed to free up some space for Dion Waiters,
Or, I mean, they're trying out some of this by J.R. Smith being the other name that's being bandied about. So really some locker room guys, some guys with
comparable players there.
Yeah, making some interesting choices there. But, it's an incredibly deep Denver team. He should not play. Best shooter on the Lakers, by the way. Best shooter on that team.
Yeah,
pretty significantly was him. I was really surprised they didn't find a way to work him in a little better there. But,
he may have been the best shooter on the Lakers, but what I want to know, Eddie, who is the best play on the slate in your eyes as of right now? Anybody you're trying to windmill slam?
Give me a second. Someone said the rankings aren't in, so I'm changing the format and trying to re-upload. So give me 30 seconds to make sure that this is functioning correctly. I'm re-inputting in the basic database. So just give me
that. I can do.
Give me 30 seconds here.
Top 10 contenders on the screen right now. I dropped a tweet just before, but for now, my overall top 10: Luka, Napier, Wanamaker, LeVert, Smart, Wood, Giannis, Nance, Kobe White, Jimmy Butler. Obviously, be cognizant of which site some of these guys are on. For example, Kobe White looks significantly better on Draftkings than he does on FanDuel. Kind of the inverse for Larry Nance. Greatly prefer him on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. So you always got to be wary of what the prices look like. A lot of names in there that I'm not super stoked about, though. Certainly not excited about Shabazz Napier, although I like him. Wanamaker doesn't make me feel good. Kobe White rarely makes me feel good.
Can you discuss for me the qualifications and quantification of who makes your contenders top 10? Is that simply a points per dollar you expect them to crap out on their various sites?
So it's an average of where I have them ranked individually on FanDuel and DraftKings. So it is essentially what would amount to like how I would expect my overall exposure to look if I added my exposure from FanDuel and DraftKings together and sorted it. It's okay, so each site's rank is based on a target score metric. So how frequently I think a player is going to hit a score that I need in a GPP. Mitchell Robinson out also.
He is out?
He is out.
All right. They will probably start Portis. Portis started the other game against the Jazz earlier this year, and even though they got their ass kicked, was pretty good in a really inefficient game. They started him next to Taj in that game. I believe Randall was out for that game. And he shot 5 for 17 from the field, but had a reasonable size double-double. I don't know if quite enough people get there. Portis crapped himself last time. He was a reasonable value option, so I expect the ownership to again remain significantly low there. But I'm pretty sure his price is pretty nominal, so I would have some interest in getting there. It's a fine place to start.
Yeah, I think you have to, right? If you got to figure he plays
28, I think I had when
easy.
I didn't think Mitch would play, and it's not a great spot for him anyway. It's actually a better spot for Portis or Taj. But I think I had him at 28 in the rotation I did for that pending this morning. I'm just triple checking. If that didn't do it, I can't imagine what's wrong. Then it's not on my end, but that should have done it. NBA Fast Eddie Fears rankings. Okay. What do we got?
Good?
Rankings. Those are my guys. Those are their numbers. Sorry about that, everyone. And I didn't notice until just a minute ago. Okay.
Well, time to find out
we're cooking with gas.
If that matters now. Does he show up in the tops? No.
Bobby?
Yeah.
No, I would have something like
number 3 right now.
Bobby Portis.
Yes.
I would have him at something like 28 minutes and 24.5 fantasy points guessing on my modifiers for this particular matchup. But
I gave him, let's see, first blush, 27 fantasy points in 26 minutes. That is too high of a rate. I'm going to need to knock some of that down. He's good, but he's not that good.
Yeah, it's not crazy in general. This Jazz team has been bad defensively recently. They're really battling the Nuggets for a team that was looking really good defensively, not just this year, but over a number of years, and has just absolutely fallen off a cliff over the last couple of months. They have had some really bad defensive games against teams like the Warriors, and the Suns are just hammering them which is a little bit surprising. But that
he's 3,900 on DraftKings. That's a nice price.
He's 39. You said?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd have a
4K on DraftKings, 3,900 on FanDuel.
Both interesting. FanDuel power forward.
Good question. I haven't played a lot of Bobby Portis lately. He's a center.
You're fine for that. He is a center.
He is a center.
That puts him. Makes an interesting question with Wendell Carter.
Yeah, it really, really is. Carter, I think you got to go to Portis now over Carter, but I was liking some Carter at the bottom before.
Yeah, I didn't think it was crazy. The matchup is brilliant. Nasri does not know what he's doing on that end of the court terribly well. Carter, even with, I think his minutes was stipulated as 22 to 24. I don't want to get that wrong. The Bulls came out with some very specific 20 to 22 and 22 to 24s. I think his was 22 to 24.
Yeah.
23 minutes of Wendell Carter against that team would have projected for somewhere around 23 fantasy points for me, which was not disinteresting. But at this point, I would have to go with Portis simply by ratio of potentially many, many more minutes.
So who would you go with as the guy you have your eye on?
Oh, God. Well, I'm going to do what I always do, which is take a look at ownership and find the guy who I really like, because everything's relative to ownership. Even if I really like Luka Doncic tonight. He's 30% owned, probably even higher on FanDuel. So making him the guy I really like doesn't make sense, because I think matching the field is a perfectly reasonable take on it. So let's go down a little bit and see if we have someone who seems particularly.
Let's see.
That's tempting.
Who do I think you're going to say?
This would be a fun game. We should do this with like note cards. Like, oh, there was. I'm having some trouble finding someone who seems particularly under-owned.
I think I have a guess on someone that you'll like. That's probably a little lighter than you would like.
Well, let's not force the format, and then tell me who that is, and we can get into it.
How you feel about Karis LeVert?
Yeah, I love him. What do we have him at?
I had 14 in as of right now. I have not looked to see if we've had an update.
That's a very small number. I presume it will be higher on FanDuel, because dear God, what's going on with that price? But
26 on FanDuel. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's still seems. I guess shooting guard's okay, and it's a 9-game slate.
I have more than that as of right now. So.
Yes, I would presume so. That projects extremely well. Like that matchup was in the first. They had a great game at the beginning of the year where they went into overtime, a giant high-scoring game, and both he and Kyrie were exceptional in that game. 6,000 is just yawn pricing error on FanDuel. I also was taking a peek at SuperDraft, if I did that right, earlier today, and he also seemed ridiculously low price there. So those are two places I would certainly super target him. But yes, on DraftKings at 72 seems to be the number I recall. Hey, there he is, 7,200. Yeah, that's particularly brilliant. We don't have any real concern with this matchup whatsoever.
No.
So yeah, I think that's a good one. It's a 9-game slate, so you have to keep that in mind when we're talking about all these ownership percentages.
For sure.
But I would have more than that, and I would have thought, and I'll postulate he ends up being a little higher than that. I think we'll actually see him somewhere in the mid to high teens, and I would probably be nominally over that as well. I'll say like 22, 24 or something. That top of my head feels like the appropriate degree of exposure for him. It's just a very good matchup. The role is secure. The minutes are secure. There's not really much more you can ask there. And one of the reasons I expect the ownership to come up is he did just bludgeon the living piss.
He had a hell of a fourth quarter and OT yesterday.
Yeah, that was OGN and OB-esque. Who had his 50-point first half. Still a little bit shell-shocked from that. But you don't want to overreact. He's had a couple worse games recently. He bookended some poor games against, I want to say, Atlanta and Miami, where he was even bad against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Which is a matchup where you expect him to excel. But he had phenomenal 60-plus point games against both Washington and Boston. So, which is one of the reasons I would be. He is a difficult to project player. There are players who are for me at least, fairly easy to project. Like this guy in this matchup, I feel like my success rate is going to be 60, 70%. Like there's a likelihood this guy will come in with a range of outcomes that I expect to be the case. LeVert in this team hasn't been that yet for me. He's done really well times I expected him to fail. He's done very poorly times I expected him to succeed. So I don't feel like I have a great grasp on him. But Positionally, none of the defenders I expect to worry him. He's had previous success against the team, if that matters to you. Although, again, it's several personnel differences on both teams at this point. But I think it really just comes down to, how well he's shooting. You look at those bad games, he shot 30, 40% from the field. You look at the exceptional games on either side, he's 50, 60, 70% from the field. So it's in his hands to spike a truly significant number. And obviously 7,200 is a little bit inexpensive for a guy in a good matchup who's put up 60 fantasy points twice in the last 4 games. So yeah, I think even our posted 10, 12, 14% ownership, whatever it's sitting at right now, is well too low. And I expect the actual number to be closer to the high teens, but I would still think I would want to find a way to exceed my exposure above that point.
So we've got Portland and Washington, monster total. Dallas and New Orleans, monster total. Wolves and Bulls, still a pretty sizable total. Which one of those games stands out most to you that you think we need to hit on?
Let's start on the Wolves and Bulls. Just because we had, and I haven't looked at this in a moment, but Denzel Valentine was holding some pretty significant chalk ranking there for a while. He's come off a little bit, but for a 9-game slate, that still feels a little bit too high for me, 20% on him. He is a guy across a couple of years who will just take shots when they are there. Yep. So the logic of Zach LaVine is not playing, the various minute nuances we're dealing with Porter, Markkanen, Carter, and the various people subbing in for them are a little bit further down the lineup, so they shouldn't overly affect his minutes, though they could. And Guy can just get there because in that last game, though he only played 21 minutes, which obviously should be a very real concern, took 15 shots in that time. Yeah. So I think the play is just fine. If this is a 4-game slate, I would look at 20% Denzel Valentine and say feels about right. It's a 9-game slate. There's 13 value guys I like just fine. So him being the third highest owned, I would probably be under on all this chalk. Our 3 chalk value guys right now are Wanamaker, Wagner, and then Valentine at 35, 32, and 20% respectively. Yep. I think I would be under the field on all 3 of those players. Roughly the same logic on all 3. Wanamaker a bit more. I don't know if the ceiling is there. Like the ownership is low enough on McKay. Look, I can almost see myself getting there.
I'm nervous with McRae now. I like Fee a lot. Now I don't know what they're going to do.
If McRae hadn't been signed, I thought you were. And if McRae didn't sign and the BK doubler, Brandon Knight didn't get into this game, I think Jordan Bone was going to start and play like 28 minutes at point guard. That was going to be my sexy number there. Did we get Brandon Knight confirmation yet? I do not believe so.
We did. I didn't see it. But I also assumed that he was in all day. So what do I know?
Oh, maybe I.
Nope, still questionable to my knowledge.
Yeah, to my last knowledge, I could have missed something there, obviously. But with Bruce Brown out and Derrick Rose out now, and obviously the lingering issues in the backcourt, that's certainly someplace I'm interested in targeting. I do think you having Christian Wood ranked very high makes a lot of sense. Obviously, that price continues to climb. I'm not super thrilled with the matchup, though. I will say in the season opener that I watched earlier today, he handled himself very well against Steven Adams. I like both the centers in that game, and I do think the absence of high usage players in the lineup next to him still makes him a very strong option because you can just pound out a very good number of shots. And that's, sort of getting back to the Karis LeVert thing. Even in those bad games, I think the minimum shots he took in a game was, I want to say 17 or something like that. So there is really consistently some usage there. So I presume, I don't know if we specifically got news yet that Thon and Sekou are going to get in and play. I think they were both probable earlier today. But that's,
I believe they are both in.
Sorry?
I believe they are both in.
Yeah, I saw probable earlier today, and I haven't updated my database, but that doesn't mean that I didn't miss a kick or didn't automatically do it. They did recall both Jordan Bone, who I previously alluded to, and Lewis King from the G League. Somebody asked me about Derek Walton as a flyer. Derek Walton was on a 10-day, which has expired. He is not with the team. So he is not on an NBA team right now. So someone asked me specifically about that, and it does clear up some extra minutes. Obviously, McRae not in the player pool, so it's difficult outside of Brandon Knight to know where this is going. They obviously can dump a pile of minutes onto Tony Snell, which they frequently will do. Shout out to the guy the other day who I wasn't on the air with you, but someone said, I have 100% Tony Snell in my lineups. is that a bad idea? I went, yes, that is a horrific idea. Tony Snell went off and had 31.5 DraftKings points. So I apologize to that guy. I swear to God, you knew something I didn't, I assume, or
to be fair,
something
that was
happened
the
there.
right take.
Well,
That's too much, Tony Snell.
Things happen there. So yeah, they picked up Jordan McRae. That's just going to make things more of a mess. I have no idea if he plays 0 or 31 minutes. Neither of those numbers would surprise me incredibly. You can't play him. It just adds some uncertainty to other guys. So if you get Brandon Knight confirmed in, I'm just fine with that. I'm reasonably optimistic, and the minutes have a very real ceiling now, obviously. But outside of that, it's tough to be really excited about much on this team after the aforementioned Knight and Wood. I just realized this team could have started tonight a guy named Wood and a guy named Bone. I want to throw that out there.
The Wood Bone connection. Run a little pick and roll.
Oh, man, that's excellent.
I like
it could be a thing. They could play Cleveland and they have the Sexland front court, and then you have something going on there. Let's see. Someone else just asked me something about Nance is playing center the vast majority of the time. It's not that Love doesn't occasionally rotate under the basket, but this is Larry Nance at center. I'm a big fan of Larry Nance here. I presume this was done to death over the last couple shows, but the Cavs basically ran 7 guys last game. I presume they will run basically 7 guys again here. They are not on a back-to-back. Well, half the slate is, I think. Cleveland is on an island. I expect them to run those 7 guys and run them into the dirt again today. There's obviously a lot to talk about in this game.
Yeah, hit it.
I do not dislike anyone on this team, from Sexton to Porter to Osman to Nance and Love. Those 5 guys are going to be the starters, to Dellavedova, who will pick up real time off the bench again. I'm curious who is your favorite on this squad, and then I want to take a look at the ownership, because this is not your parents' Celtics defense here. It's going to be a little muddy. I've watched their bench unit, and it struggles defensively significantly from time to time, and that's with a couple anchors in there. Having Tatum in there is going to help. Having Marcus Smart in there is certainly going to help, and those guys are going to play very real time. But I'm a pretty big fan of the Cavs. We have Kevin Porter as again, pretty significantly chalk. He is into the 30s on a slate like this. I have him at 39 minutes, and that's conservative, if anything, I think. They're really going to run him out there for a massive amount of time, and he has not been afraid to shoot.
No, he is not.
He does project best for me at points per dollar, but not by such a significant margin. I would prefer him over some of the other guys here at lower numbers. And again, this is a bit of a tale of two sides. I think FanDuel has many of these guys are going to be super chalk because they are incredibly cheap.
Yeah, Nance is my favorite on FanDuel for sure.
Yeah, and that's not close, unfortunately. Power forward's very interesting on FanDuel. We could specifically look at that if you get a sec. But Nance might be my favorite on DK in a specific tournament lineup. It's 6,500. That is a very real number. But it's time at center in a matchup that I particularly like for him. He does well against players of Tice's ilk, and to my recollection, in the time I've seen them against each other on the ball, the price is significant, but I really think Nance should do extremely well tonight, and we have him close to single digits or something on DK. I think he was 10-12% when I looked last.
We had 8 last time I saw. For 4,100, like, given that he's getting not a lot of love, like, Chetty is viable. He's just bad.
Yeah,
he's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you went back and looked at that last game, well, with the 7-man rotation, all of those starters took, I think it was 14 to 17 shots. It was very even. They moved the ball fairly well for a Cavs team. I was impressed. They were all fairly close to good. Now the prices on DK aren't quite so good in the matchup with even the main red claws, basically not quite so good for the Cavs that I would expect 5 of them to get there. But I'm not overly fussed if I see 3 in your lineup at DraftKings prices. I like 1. I don't mind 2. 3 is probably my top limit there, but even at those prices with that number of minutes, these guys are too cheap. Osman at 4,100, that's incredibly cheap for a guy. If you think he's in it, let's give him a worse than normal matchup and pretend it's terrible, and he's going to play. Let's give him 40 minutes. Probably gonna be 1 or 2 less than that, but give him 0.7 fantasy points a minute. That's 28 for an average projection at 0.7 times 40, and 40 is not far off, and 0.7 is actually a little thin. I think you get Ojale out there playing more time than we might expect. Don't play Semi Ojale, but I expect him to be out there and doing the best they can to stop Kevin Love based on similar situations I've seen. So absolutely fine to play Kevin Love. But if someone is going to get the minutes kicking the dick, I would say it would be Kevin Love. So he's probably, even though the price on FanDuel is brilliant, you're locking onto a lot of Larry Nance, so playing them both feels a little sticky, and then you're eschewing Tatum and a lot of other great up options, and Tatum with the correlation across the ball. So I think on both sides, Kevin Love is my least favorite of the 5 starters, and saying that I think he's still an exceptionally good play. And if you had, a lineup with 2 Cavs and one was Kevin Love, I wouldn't look at that as bad at all. But I find all 7 of those Cavs in play, including Ante Zizic. You need 2 fouls to get 28 minutes out of Ante Zizic, who's a perfectly reasonable fantasy producer. I wouldn't have much of that. I wouldn't have much of...
he's unowned, obviously.
What?
And he's unowned, obviously.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he's 0.5% or something
right.
On a 9-game slate. So it is not hard to... you need foul trouble on Love or Nance.
Yep.
That's it. That's not going to happen frequently, but, you'll have Tatum out there taking his 30 shots. He's going to go at the rim reasonably frequently. Not crazy to imagine that. So he's, Zizic will be crap 90% of the time, but that other 10% of the time at 0.5% owned, he can put up a real number there. So I guess Dellavedova would be 7th of 7 of the relevant Cavs here, and he's not out of play at 3,500. Not a great fantasy producer. Played 29 minutes in the last game. Can pull a low end double with assists. He still handles the ball, passes fairly well. Has the ugliest jump shot. Oh my God. I don't know if you see him. It's like he shoots like 8th graders shoot because he's about that size. Like I can only reach if I shot put it. So I got to bring the ball back.
It's
like
hideous.
a trebuchet.
It's hideous.
Yeah, it's fugly, but I do enjoy. Plus, calling it a deli tray every time it goes in. I'm fully in for the labeling, but
you know what else is hideous? We have 2,927 people in here and only 300 likes. That is a terrible ratio.
That's like 11%. That is a crap ratio right there.
Guys,
we are underappreciated in our time, as all genius is.
Very true. Guys, hit the thumbs up button. It's right below the video. Looks like this, but it's drawn. Hit that. Helps us out tremendously. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell too, so you know when all of our content goes live. But there we go. We're already up to 447. Sometimes you just need to give people a prompt. I greatly appreciate it.
They respond to you.
They do. And also, go check out SuperDraft. Go to superdraft.io and use that promo code Awesemo. Get yourself $20.
I will double check, but do not play Taco Fall. Taco Fall is in the G League.
Yeah. I mean, there are multiple reasons why you shouldn't be playing Taco Fall, but the main one is the fact that he's probably not in Cleveland.
Not available. Yes, I don't think he's actually with the team. I'm 99% sure. So yeah, you don't want to do it anyway. But that there. So
I think we need to talk through this Boston team that is without Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, who I thought was going to play with Tatum out. Those 2 guys flip-flopped, but they're missing 3 of their starters. How are you feeling about this Boston team? Is there a piece of value that stands out to you? Do you think you can get to $9,900 Jason Tatum and Grin and Barrett? Is Marcus Smart the guy? Talk to me about it.
I really like Jason Tatum. I'm going to go look at his ownership, but I have a feeling he
14.
Might be... Yeah, he might be my favorite spend up. I'm going to go look a second here. This is going to be close. I have Jason Tatum for 55 DraftKings points.
That is more than me.
By how much?
5.
I'm curious what Alex has now. Let's check Alex.
You might beat me too.
I'm really curious. Alex has hey, there you go. Now it's finally loading. Alex has 54.13. Okay, so
now I'm going back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I look at this and I like, if he is not limited by illness, and this game doesn't blow out, this is going to be really hard for him to score. I have him at 29.5 shots. 29.5 shots.
I'm up to 50.5 now.
Well, okay. Do whatever you just did. Do 8 more times. You'll be right there with me and Alex. But yeah, there's not a. I expect him to get the best of the defensive matchups. Is the first thing to say. Not that there are a ton of great defenders on the Cavaliers, but he's going to beat the crud out of Kevin Love, which, for reference, he has already done twice this year. He had 2 exceptional games against the Cavs out of the 3 previous meetings between them. It's just so much usage, and we've seen even these last even these last couple of weeks with just Kemba out or with a couple other guys out, he has really started putting his thing down. So I just think the upside is massive. And do we have him less owned than, I assume he's less owned than Luka and Giannis?
He just jumped to 21%. I just got an update. He's 10% less than Luka. He is 7% more than Giannis. One other piece of news: Celtics will start Wanamaker, Smart, Tatum, Grant Williams, and Tice.
Yeah, that's what I had. Grant Williams is the next guy I can go to with sort of any degree of confidence there. He should play his 22 minutes. He might play 29 minutes. He's the guy they trust most of sort of the also-rans on this team. They have done a very Charlotte-esque, a couple other teams this year that have been really random with the rotations, whereas I'll spend an hour looking into something. The Mavs are another one, and I still don't know exactly what they're going to do. I think you get more Semi Ojeleye due to the density of talented front court players at this point for the Cavs, and they run his time up a little bit, but you are going to get some amount of Carson Edwards. Obviously, Javonte Green, probably the next one I'd go to for upside. Tice will be a little bit the forgotten man, though we've seen very little, indicator of him, taking a large offensive role in the absence of these other players, which is another reason I'm buying into the upside for Tatum. I think Tatum having the Q tag, the mark of Cain, as it will, that was set upon him, so that when he goes to wander in the lands east of Nod, anyway.
I don't have any idea where you're going with that one.
No, it doesn't matter. I got biblical there for a second, but
no clue.
Point being, people are less owned when they have the random thing next to their name on FanDuel and DraftKings. Maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 2%, but people just sort of mentally block it in with the out thing, and even just the inherent doubt that it adds to you on a subconscious level. Guys get a bonus there. So, again, I have Giannis at 60, Luka at 59, and Tatum at 55, and Beal at 54 for reference.
Okay, so that makes me feel a little bit better. I'm like 3 points to 4 points lower on every one of those guys. So
interesting.
From a scaling perspective,
Alex and I
that makes more sense.
Alex and I are over you on everything then, which is interesting. But Alex says, again, I have Giannis at 60. Alex has 58.5. I have Luka at 59. A little bit. I'm rounding my numbers up. So I'm again, he's about 1.5 points less than me. He has Luka at 57. I have Tatum. He and I have Tatum and Beal inverted, but basically at the same numbers. And then we have a very significant drop off, both of us, until we get into the same block of Sabonis, Russell, Lillard, Whiteside, Kristaps are all another 6 or 7 points drop off after that.
Okay.
And so if Tatum's ownership is going to be even commensurate with a lot of those other players, I have a fair bit of interest. So let me reload the ownership, and we'll talk through this guy by guy, because I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty important for today.
Someday, someplace, maybe you and I will do a show where we literally try to do everything, but thankfully we're lucky to have the incredible few hours of coverage before us on this channel, so we can handle some edge questions, take some questions, and sort of talk about things. So right now we have Brad Wanamaker at the top, 37% owned. I would not get that high myself because it is Brad Wanamaker, and just it's into the ceiling question. It's the same reason I for a long time had argued against almost every single day Zvi was the chalk. Yeah. And I wasn't on the one day he really got there, but Zvi doesn't do a whole lot but make 3-pointers. You get him in a great matchup. He has one career game, I think, over 32 DraftKings points, and like 4 career games over like 27. He had one game where he put up 37 or something against the Hawks. He is going against quite the opposite of the Hawks today, where Zvi is going against the Thunder, who are maybe the best defensive backcourt in basketball at this point. They are really, really good.
Speaking of Zvi, Brandon Knight, Zvi, Mikhailuk, Snell, Wood, Henson starting lineup for the Pistons.
Okay, there you go.
Oklahoma City backcourt. I didn't want to derail you there.
No. You're that's again what I had down for that team. So that is about what is expected among them. So Brandon Knight getting the start?
Yes.
Well, I'll end my Zvi analysis, and we'll just stick with the Pistons for a second here. I like Wood most on this team, as do you.
Yes.
I think is safe to say.
It's probably all I like, honestly.
Yeah, I don't, Henson, if he was still 3,500, we're having a conversation. He's into the 4Ks now, and they've shown a reticence to expand him beyond, say, 20 minutes in that role. Tony Snell, I think you've gotten his best game of the year now. Just does not do a lot. And again, this matchup is really poor. So maybe we're beginning and done there. But I do think Brandon Knight is worth discussing here.
Okay.
So they priced him up to, is it 41 or 45? I'm getting his price in my head messed on DK.
48 on FanDuel, 45 on DraftKings.
Right. No, I mean he'll grab 10% ownership, and that's about right. I don't think there's much more there, especially because the time is limited. They've brought Kyrie Thomas back into the rotation. He can grab some time. You obviously can have McRae bring the ball up. He's competent as a point guard. Jordan Bone is up with the team, so I guess I'm willing to let that go. And again, because he had, I think Brandon Knight had a quad strain, was his particular injury.
Not
so
great.
That's something they maybe don't want to necessarily push the minutes. So yeah, I guess I'm just willing to let that go. We can move off the Pistons. That's one more time than they deserve.
Yeah, they don't look great. I mean, lot these 7:00 games, Cleveland, shorthanded Boston, so they're only interesting because they're shorthanded.
Yeah.
Pistons total is 100. OKC under 110. Pacers 105. Like it's a lot of gross out there. How do you feel about Giannis today? He's got a hell of a price tag on both FanDuel and DK, but is he a guy you want to pay up for? Indiana, tough spot.
I mean, he's been perfectly Giannis productive in this spot. He is really phenomenal. I will just go ahead and side on Team Giannis over Team Harden in this conversation. Like, suggesting that someone is doing really well for their team and is really productive and their team is winning and their stats are great, but they're not good at basketball is pretty absurd. Because I don't know what you think the point of basketball is, but for me, it would be for my team to win or to put up good stats or to be the league MVP or something. Like, it may not be how you play basketball. It's fun. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, as the saying goes, but I don't know. He's arguably the best player in the league on both ends of the court. Yes, he gets there with a different skill set than you have, maybe even less skill. Like, I will accept that Giannis has less skill than James Harden. I don't think that's an unreasonable statement, that Harden has more athletic dexterity, celerity type of skill. I would concede that point. He's still an absolutely tremendous basketball player. So
right.
Sorry, I had to come down.
I'm not sure that I'm going to have Giannis teaching like my fundamentals drills and stuff. But he's just on an athletically different level than, I mean, for the most part, anybody that's ever played in the NBA. Like, it's a short list either way.
Yeah, he's in that physically unique conversation with LeBron, who for a guy for his build and size is uncommonly skilled, and Wilt, and Kristaps is again sort of a physical abnormality. Like, he's an even bigger Dirk with a good skill set with a sweet shot. Like, there's a few guys where it's just like, you're unique, but that doesn't make you bad.
Yeah, like LeBron compared to Giannis from a skills perspective is pretty dramatic.
Yes. But LeBron's just built like a linebacker and has these skills of a point guard and, can shoot okay and rebound really well and just, has an incredibly well-rounded game. Yeah, we have Giannis at 15%. I don't have a strong take on that. I think I would be in and around that area. I do think, again, of those four guys we listed, obviously the price is significant. Yeah. We have, so as the immediate colloquy about these two guys, we have Giannis at 11.4 expenditure at about 15% owned, and we have Luka slightly more than double that at 10.9. Now, I do have Luka as a slightly better point per dollar play. As previously mentioned, I have Giannis about a fantasy point higher, and he's $500 more on DraftKings. In one lineup now, I would rather play Giannis than Luka. I don't know if you feel the same way, but right now we're looking at about 15% ownership and about 31% ownership. That's not appropriate for the $500 difference to me.
Yeah, like I would guess that I'd feel more comfortable swapping from Luka to Giannis and building out a comparable lineup for just $500 less than it would have been, if we knew that ownership was going to hold at half. Yeah. I have Giannis projected for 0.1 of a point more than Luka.
I think I have him for 1.1, and Alex has him for, since I had that handy, Alex has him for 1.27 more. I rounded 1 decimal point. He's going hardcore.
Going deep. Guys, 18 minutes until we get to lock. I'm surprised we haven't seen some sort of like really crazy news so far, but I'm happy that it hasn't happened.
Certainly been a day where that was queued up. I'm trying to look at any other.
Also, we're up to 738 likes now. It was 300 and change until the prompt. So now I feel like I've got to do this. 2,883 people in here. Can we get that to 1,000? Can you guys pull that off? I think 1,000 likes would look pretty tasty here.
It's a free show. It's the best thing you can do for us.
It is.
Just takes you a click.
20 Rick says Josh looks happy. I'm happy that he's happy. Well, I appreciate that. I'm happy that you're happy that I'm happy.
Everyone's very happy.
Yeah. It's a good day. I got a slight haircut. Unfortunately, I'm going to get another haircut on my face tomorrow. So I'm coming back with my child predator mustache starting Friday morning. Can't wait.
I'm looking forward to that.
You would be the only one, I think, that's looking. Well, there are a lot of people looking forward to it that are not looking forward to it because it benefits me.
Right.
Yes. I am the butt of this one. And I deserve it because the Sixers are an embarrassment on the road.
So I feel like we should cover more ground here. So let's talk about the Bulls a little bit. I think that matchup is exceptional, and not having Zach LaVine, that we're coming in short. Like there is some, like Kobe White. I like Kobe White more today than I've liked Kobe White in a while, and he's at the absolute top of his price range. So while I do think the bust percentage is very significant, really looks like he's going to go out there and play 30, 32, 33 minutes in a particularly brilliant matchup and take 20, 22 shots, including a dozen three-pointers. And there's a very real ceiling there. So his ownership is substantial. I'm curious how you feel about that. Are you around the field on Kobe? We've got him around 20, I think.
So it's a tale of two stories. I think he looks fantastic on DraftKings, and I would be north of the field on DK. On FanDuel, where he's 6,300, he is my 9th ranked point guard. I think he just sort of blends in with the pack at that point.
Do you have him under Ja Morant?
I have him. So using the percentage numbers that I have, there's no context to this, but Kobe White 14.2%, Ja Morant 14.1. So I have him by a 1/10 of a percentage point ahead of
a red hair. Okay, so your guys are going to be. Let's talk about Shabazz Napier, because I know that's going to be one of your guys above that. I do agree that that matchup is particularly brilliant. Let's give me Shabazz Napier. I'll hand it to you.
4,600. I expect him to be picking up a decent chunk of minutes with Ish Smith out. Tried to give him a little bit of a discount in his usage rate then, just from having to play alongside Bradley Beal a little bit more. But I mean, when push comes to shove, he's just priced like he's going to play less than he is today.
Yeah.
And I expect him to
play more. I don't know if you've added something. I started adding basically a curve to my rankings where guys at the very bottom of the price range, it doesn't scale linearly, because again, when you talk about 4,600 on FanDuel, that's 1,100 off the cap. That is closer to 4,100 on DK than 4,600 on DK. It's more relevant, the distance from the floor, than the actual apples to apples number. So that's
still cool with him on DraftKings at 5K. I mean, Napier's like one of my favorite plays. Feels really safe. Feels very easy to get to in cash.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad that's someone we discussed. And he is under-owned to my estimation.
Yeah.
So
I'm hoping that stays there.
Okay, good. Glad we had that conversation.
Do you want anything else from Chicago? Because obviously this is an amazing matchup.
Big time. I think Satoransky on FanDuel. Do you have him above Kobe
on FanDuel? No,
he's 53 on FanDuel. I don't have him as quite a good of a ratio, but that being said, not a guy who tends to pick up usage in the absence of LaVine, so on and so forth. But it's still not hard to imagine the hypothetical in which he smashes 5,300 on FanDuel, where he is a guy who can pick up a couple extra steals, so on and so forth. He gets some immediate leverage against a lot of Kobe White, a lot of Denzel Valentine, so on and so forth. That's probably the next name I'm going to there. Like, there's obviously just a minutes kerfuffle going on with the entire Markkanen, Carter, blah.
Yeah.
Otto Porter as well, who looked exceptional in his last game. But, the timing being so limited on those guys, I do think it's right to look around them. So Satoransky, DK not out of play at 58, and FanDuel pretty sizable fan at 5,300. I would want to have some shares of that.
Let's see, who else do we need to hit on? Any Naz Reid for you, or anything from Minnesota, I guess.
Yeah, I still think I would probably rank them as far as a raw projection standpoint. I would have, first of all, FanDuel, they're really cheap. Naz Reid is 45 on FanDuel. Malik Beasley is 53.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Russell is 82. All those are much better prices than the DK prices, and they all look to be a little bit under-owned for me. The only guy priced better on DK is actually James Johnson. That's something I'd have a couple shares of. You just need like some Naz Reid foul trouble. But I'm going to be a big fan of front court players against this Bulls team until they get anyone who can play the front court with any degree of defensive intensity. Thad used to be much better than he's been this year. He's been disappointing to me, but they're just getting walloped.
He's getting old.
Yeah. It's tell me about it. But
I'm sure he's not really interested in putting in a lot of effort for the Bulls.
Yeah, exactly. He's cashing them checks, which is fine. We have Naz Reid, I think, appropriately owned. We have him at 22% on DK. I'm guessing on FanDuel, where I think he's a center, probably end up being a little less than that, but the price is obviously superlative. I would rather play him at 4,500 than either of the 4K centers.
Power forward.
Is he a power forward?
Yes, 24% owned as well right now.
Yeah, that's tough in a world of, like, I would rather Larry Nance. Yes. I think you would rather Larry Nance.
Yes.
Naz Reid has defensive issues. They have at least James Johnson who can step in and back him up perfectly well. We've seen that fail before, so I would rather play Nance. I would rather play Tatum. He might get in there at number 3 for me as I look through this. Not a spot I super want to go with the Brooklyn centers. They're priced where they are appropriately, even in a good matchup. The FanDuel price on Valanciunas is obviously pretty exciting.
I've got more Tice right now than him. Tice going on 2.5% on Tice right now on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean Cleveland. That's again, as I think I mentioned before, not usually a guy who goes out there and goes, "Oh, I'm gonna take over because we have guys out."
Right.
But not a great spot for Vooch. I would rather generally play. I'd rather play Adebayo, where they end up being proportional by a little bit. You can get to some Vooch. He's not unplayable. I like Hassan Whiteside at his price. He 2020'd against the Wizards this year. Yeah, he did. He 2020'd when they played the Wizards the first time this year.
How you feeling on Joel? That's a guy I've got a little bit of.
Yeah, I mean, he has been playing over his head a little bit recently, I think it is fair to say. He has always been an incredibly good fantasy basketball player, but a lot of this recent production has come on the back of rebounds. Last 4 games rebounds, 15, 22, 13, 16. The 6 games before that, 5, 8, 8, 12, 8, 14, before that 8. Before that 26, by the way. I think I just read, I mixed points and rebounds there, but point being the rebounds have been a little bit unsustainably high. Last 4 games, 15, 19, 25. Before that, 10, 7, 11, 11. Like that's he will, if he gets his full time, which as they are still trying to hold on to a playoff spot, which I'm curious what their playoff odds are right now. You have 538 handy.
I do.
But a great rebounder, but averaging, 20 a game over the last 3 probably won't hold up. But the matchup is brilliant.
12%.
Sorry?
12%.
12%? Yeah.
Pelicans 52. Blazers 20.
They're giving it to the Pellies, not Trailblazers.
Blazers 20. Grizzlies 12. Kings 14.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun for that last spot.
It really is. Anything else?
But yeah, Memphis. It's an island game for Memphis. They're again one of the few teams not on back-to-back. Makes me feel a little bit better that they give Val the real time. So he's owned. I think he's owned appropriately. I don't have a strong plus or minus take. Let's do a last ownership swap here. I'll look at DK. You look at FanDuel maybe, and
we've got Luka at the top on FanDuel at 44. Karis LeVert all the way up to 38 now, which is where he should be. But I liked it better when it wasn't that high.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that was going to sneak under. So DK, we have Wanamaker at 48. I would be well under that. Wanamaker is a perfectly competent player. The matchup is great. 48 is too high on a 9-game slate for Brad Wanamaker. If it's, better player, more certain, any number of things, but that's 48 is probably too big of a number there. Kevin Porter at 35 is closer to reasonable. Luka at 33 is fine. Mo Wagner at 29. If they were down to 2 centers, I'm fine with that. If they're down to 2 centers, I'd be like, okay, Mo Wagner is a very productive player. I do think the upside is there. I don't hate 29, and I think it's quite likely he gets down, but they still have Pashneks who got in the last game. They still have Jan Mahinmi.
That Mo Wagner ownership is surprising me.
Yeah, that's higher than I would have thought. And maybe it doesn't play out that way, but I would, at this point, I'll play the whatever 5% Jan Mahinmi for $200 less.
I mean, I know it's a different position. I'll just play Jerome Robinson, and that's from the same team at no ownership.
Sure. I mean, they have spoken well of him. It wasn't pure an abstraction. It wasn't one of those scenarios like with the Nets where the second unit came back and won the game, so you got really increased minutes. They were talking up Jerome Robinson for the better part of a week, talking him up on both ends of the court, got 30 minutes in that last game, started the second half, getting more minutes than Troy Brown, getting more minutes than Isaac Bonga. So, that's kind of a real thing. So 3,100 for him. I would go in. What again? That matchup may be, accepting the egregious Mo Wagner ownership, the most underowned of them. I mean, that's Portland and Washington. Not much defense will be played, and we are projecting Shabazz Napier. Shabazz Napier just jumped up a little bit. We got Shabazz Napier at 27% now on DK. I blame you.
Sorry, guys. Short Sleep, thank you for the super chat. Knight or Napier, FanDuel GPP? That's got to be Napier for me.
I mean, I have Napier projected a good bit better. It feels safer. It would come down to ownership for me. If we have Napier 20, Knight 12, which are 2 numbers off the top of my head where I think they're going to sit, I would still stick with Napier.
We have Knight at 2.
And Napier at
22.
Yeah, I was ballparking that.
Brandon Knight is 4,800 on FanDuel.
Yeah, it depends what else you are doing. That is a play. I like Brandon Knight at 2 more than I like Shabazz Napier at 22 in a vacuum, but that's something that will be wrong most of the time and could be very nice when it works out. I'm going to stick with Shabazz Napier most of the time there because the matchup is also kind of brutal. It's bad matchup plus potentially limited minutes. It's a quad strain. It's not an illness. It's not whatever. I have real concern that he still only plays X minutes, so I will stick with that there. I think there's a real chance you get 34 minutes of Shabazz Napier here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to happen. I think my projection had him at 30, but there's a chance for some very, very significant Shabazz Napier time here.
I think there's going to be an easier place to get off of a mildly owned player for a better option than Brandon Knight.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
What else can we touch on? We've got 5 minutes to lock. You guys did a fantastic job getting those likes up. We're at 987. I see 1,000 in our sights. I don't even have to ask any longer. I just know that one's going to happen. Portland Trailblazers. Is Dame Lillard a guy for you today, making his return to the lineup?
Yeah, if he's going to be as low owned as we currently have him projected. What do we have those numbers
3.
at now? They've been pretty. Yeah, there's. I mean, you obviously don't want to McCollum at this point. Lillard again was perfectly equitable even in the Whiteside 2020 game, even with McCollum being fine. These Wizards are bad, and I think it's funny how quickly we forget some of this stuff because Lillard was beast mode for a while there. I don't know if y'all forgot or something, but he was looking pretty good before he got injured. We were like, this guy's price is too low, and he climbed all on his own back from 8 to 10. That is where that number comes from, and this is still the Wizard. So FanDuel, I believe he is 9K.
He is.
I imagine he's one of the guys you have ranked above Kobe White.
They're pretty close. I don't know what to do with Dame. I don't know how much he's going to play.
I don't either. Well, welcome to my world. I like him more on DK because there's a chance you will not have a minutes limit tweet and then
Agreed.
I
mean, if we knew that he was normal Dame playing 36, 37 minutes, he's a lot more owned than 12%. That much I could tell you.
Yeah. Trevor Ariza on FanDuel, I bet you have a reasonable share of.
I do.
Dude's playing 36, 37 minutes a game. He's 4,400 on FanDuel, small forward.
He is one of the guys that I have a decent chunk of at small forward. Along with Chetty. So that feels
getting
just
a good
great.
number of Knicks questions. It's outside of Portis. It's a little like I legitimately like some exposure to Portis. He's cheap.
Sure.
Absent Mitch Robinson, that potentially works out extremely well. The ceiling is there, and I do think he'll end up being underowned. For me, after that, it's pretty dicey because again they've put Barrett into just playing more point guard on the court, so it's tough to go to Elf. Randall is cheap, but the matchup's pretty difficult for him. So not Reggie Bullock is the minimum if you're trying to be cute, but yeah, that's sticky for me to say the least.
Yeah, Bobby Portis on DK for 4K looks fantastic. I'm cool with bits of Randall, Peyton, or Barrett, but I don't like the Knicks.
Yep.
It's a tough sell for me.
Nor does Spike Lee.
God, yeah, not right now. They don't. Just use the other door, bro.
How do you not take care of that guy? Setting aside the fact he's brilliant and a wonderful director and the whole 9 yarders, how about you get some free advertising out of Spike Lee?
Yeah. They can't take care of anybody.
Entitlement.
It's not great. 2 minutes to go. I hope you've got your lineups in. We are over 1,000 likes, so thank you to all of you that hit the thumbs up. And if you watched and you didn't, no thanks go to you. Thumbs down to you.
Okay.
Stick around after lock. In 2 minutes, we are going to, we'll take a quick look at some ownership on DraftKings, and then we'll make the transition to SuperDraft, where they are only half full in their $3,600 jump shot. Plus, we've got Ben Ross and Jason Roslin coming up at 8:30, where we'll be giving out tickets to their golf contest. Eddie, is there anything we need to hit on immediately before we get to lock? We're coming up with just a minute to go. I don't really see another team that we didn't touch on that I think that we needed to. Favorite Pelican?
Zion. Close for me, but Zion over Ingram by a hair.
Okay.
Not really a great favors day. I don't think they need to stretch him out there in this particular spot. They're on a back end of a back-to-back. Fourth meeting with the Mavs. Hopefully win one for the first time here. But at their prices and their current distribution with the Mavs all healthy, no one looks that great for me. So probably Zion for me still. I expect him to actually be more productive in the future. We saw 5 stocks out of him in the last game, which was nice to see that start to come around. I expect him to actually be a better defensive producer going forward, especially when he ends up in the right place at the right time. He's still making some mental errors which not weird for someone who's played 20 games in the NBA.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to actually continue to be more productive. Brook Lopez, I like. I haven't talked about Brook Lopez. That's a guy I'd be over the field on. Really nice spot for him. Been fine against him this year additionally, but this is a match where I can see Brook Lopez putting up a number. Something I probably should have mentioned before 10 seconds before lock, but
we locked.
Rolo's. Yeah. But Rolo's someone I would have had some interest in.
I'm going to pull up DK's.
Yeah, that game locked too. All right. If Rolo has a big game, I'm going to feel bad. I do that like twice a year.
Yeah, we'll be all right. Pulling up DraftKings $4 massive mini max. I don't know what they're actually. The mega mini max. We'll take a look at some ownership there, and then we'll get into SuperDraft, where we're looking at probably some reduced rake. You're going to want to get in there. Go to superdraft.io. Use the promo code Awesemo. You can get yourself $20 in super cash on your first $100 or more deposit.
Did you say it's called the Mega Mini Max?
Correct.
Mega Mini Max.
Correct.
I like some alliteration as much as the next guy, but that name doesn't mean anything.
Nope.
It's in Baldur's Great. In Baldur's Great, you walked around with a miniature giant squirrel on your shoulder the whole game. It reminds me of that. Like Mega Mini, miniature giant.
Are you ready to take a look at some ownership?
Oh, okay. Let me.
We got three games on the early.
The one everyone will be owned for. The first question, I will say the top 5 players are from the Celtics or Cavs, at least. And then it's the Knicks and the Jazz and the Pistons and the Thunder. Is that it?
It is Cavs, Celtics, Pistons, Thunder, Bucks, Pacers.
Bucks, Pacers. Okay. How many Celtics? Tell me how many.
We've got 11 guys north of 10% or higher.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going through all the ones that are going to be heavily owned from Celtics, Cavs.
Okay.
Okay. I'll say the top is Brad Wanamaker.
You got Brad Wanamaker. He is not at the top.
Oh, all right. For you, I just have to name the guys. Okay,
Sure.
that's good. Do them in order is a headache.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brad Wanamaker, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum. That'll be the Celtics.
That's 2, 3, and 4. Just FYI.
Oh, we're at the top. Porter, Nance, Osman, and Sexton for the Cavs. At least those 4.
You would be correct. Porter, number 1, 40% owned. Wanamaker, 38.5.
Oh, okay.
You have
Nice job ownership, by the way. Got those top 2. Good job.
4 to go.
Giannis.
Correct. 3 to go. You're missing one person above Giannis. And then the final 2 guys.
Christian Wood.
Christian Wood, not above Giannis. So 2 to go. 1 above, 1 below.
I really wanted to take a shot on someone on OKC, but I don't think anyone on OKC gets there. It's really tough to take the shots on their offense. I would have gone with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander if I was in a fire on one of their big 4. I actually probably would have gone with Steven Adams. Maybe Steven Adams gets there. I don't remember what he was. He was much better priced on FanDuel.
Steven Adams, 2%. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 1.6.
I would have liked those guys at those numbers. It was really tough tonight with all the great value. And
Gallo at 3.5. Chris Paul at 2.
Yeah, I would have slightly preferred the first 2, but the kind of ignore ownership at that point.
Yeah.
There won't be enough at Bledsoe because of his minutes.
Correct.
They're not really going to like anyone on the Pacers against the Bucks. I don't think Brogdon gets there. Warren won't get there. Sabonis, I still don't think it's cheap enough. He won't get there in that matchup. Turner's up to 58 on DK. He won't get there. I'm going to give up in 2 minutes, or I'll start guessing players from the slate and you can tell me I'm wrong. I'm missing 1 or 2 more.
You're missing 2. And
one of them's very high.
It's not very high, but...
Well, it's over someone, I said.
They're both under 20.
Brandon Knight.
Correct. That is the one that is slightly higher than Giannis, 16.8.
The price was kind of shit, but I'll say Kevin Love.
Kevin Love is number 12, 8% owned. Your only miss. You want it?
Yeah, give it to me.
Svi Mikhailiuk, 12%.
Damn it. Yeah. I even said, by the way, again, nice job ownership as we had him at 12%. So right on the nose again. I don't say this often enough. Our ownership is a wonder.
Yes.
It's right within a reasonable degree of certitude. A, better than any I've ever seen. And B, like 80, 85, 90% of the time. Which is incredibly accurate. Like, there are things that you can get right 1 out of 4 times of being the best in the world at. So shout out to our ownership, which is vastly correct.
0.13% of the people own Derek Walton. They have played themselves. Derek
what
Walton,
percent?
0.13%.
All right, that is a playing of oneself. Not currently in the National Basketball Association. Played for a couple teams this year. Not currently on a team.
A couple other guys showed up. George Hill, Taco Fall, but that was the big one.
Oh, what was the? I'm going 0.5 on Ante Zizic.
0.26.
Ah, jeez. All right, let's look at some SuperDraft. You don't smile when I do that, and I'm already nervous doing it.
Sorry, I was really happy that you did it the first time. I honestly just didn't even hear that one. I was reading chat.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
I had however many things that I've been tagged in since
I want to do the SuperDraft. I think the SuperDraft thing should only be done in a good Herbert the Pervert type impression voice. I think that would really be excellent. Same pitch, just a little more waver.
SuperDraft.
There you go. That's really good.
Excuse me. You kids looking for some SuperDraft?
That's good.
You better come on down to the cellar, because I got a whole freezer full of SuperDraft.
Thank you. Thank you.
I like it.
Thanks.
It.
Okay.
Time to check out some SuperDraft. Projections are free. Go to Awesemo.com. You can find...
Are they really? Wow, we
are.
can get deep into this. This is
They
nice.
are. I've got mine locked and loaded.
I'm loading Alex's then. I'm loading mine. Oh, Zion.
Yeah, he's...
How are you always on top, Zion? SuperDraft, come on. 1.55 still, huh?
Yeah, Zion is numero uno in mine as well.
And mine.
Tops of the table. And don't forget, coming up 90 minutes from now, Ben Rasa and Jason Roslin talking some PGA and giving away SuperDraft tickets on that show. So come check it out. Yeah, Zion's got to be number one. He's the only guy I have north of 60 points on SuperDraft.
It's interesting that you had markedly different top end, at least, projections than Alex and I did today.
Yeah,
like usually 5 points. Even I mean that's like a 9% differential at the point we were looking at. That's still more than the three of us tend to separate in my experience. So it is. I'm curious. It's likely just we happened. It's likely a small sample of three guys where we happened to throw a couple extra minutes at him.
I also tend to be a little bit lighter at the top, probably a bit more aggressive from a regression to the mean perspective. Number 2 in my SuperDraft projections today. Did not expect this, but the multiplier gets him there. 1.7x. Kobe White.
Kobe White. Yep, my number 2 also. Alex is number 5.
So
I have all these guys within 1.6 points. I have Butler, Dinwiddie, LeVert, White, Whiteside, D'Angelo, all in a very tight little cluster, as does Alex.
Yeah, it gets packed in at the top. Karis LeVert is 3 for me. 58.9 SuperDraft points, 1.55 multiplier. Benjamin with the super chat. First time using Fantasy Cruncher on Awesemo.com, and I have 60% exposure to Chetty Osman on 150 max entries. FML.
I don't mind it. I really don't mind it.
I mean, it's not going to make you feel good. You're going to want to eat like 2 Tums until that game gets going, but there are worse plays.
If someone knows about Chetty Osman screwing with you, it'd be Josh. Because I have at least 2 specific memories of you having a bad Chetty Osman experience.
Yeah. Oh, well, the one day it was just like, he came out like gangbusters, 7-2-1-1 in the first 4 minutes.
I remember that.
He came back out. He played 8 minutes.
On the show, I was like, screw Chetty Osman. And Josh is like, I have tons of him. He's going to be great. And like, we go off the air. It's 6 minutes into the game and he has 19 fantasy points or something. Went absolutely ballistic. Ended with 21.
Yeah, I think he played like 4 more minutes.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
Number 4 for me, Drew Holiday. 1.35 multiplier. I've been pretty high on Drew Holiday for about a week now too.
11 for me.
Okay.
I'm curious where I'm well above Alex. Hold on. 2, 5, 10, 50, 20-ish for Alex.
He was one of the bigger gaps I had with the boss man today too.
I need to do a deep dive on the Pelicans. I haven't had enough time to really go back and look at them and watch that and who I figure is, because one of the things I try to do to pick up an edge is finding things that aren't truly representing as far as, even usage and other things where guys are in the right place and specific defensive schemes take guys out. My intuition is with Lonzo in town, with Ingram still being present as a threat, not with Lonzo in town, but with Zion playing, with Lonzo really feeling himself and the rapport he has with Zion and Ingram's presence in there, that Drew ends up shifting more into his sexy defensive stopper role, and maybe the decrease is for real. But I love Drew Holiday. I mean, once a year we get Drew Holiday fan club around these parts where you just watch him play a couple games and you're just like, oh God, look at that guy. But that's a really, really good team now. I really like that team. I hope they make the playoffs. I think they're really good.
You ready for this?
Yep.
Cavs will start Sexton, Dellavedova, Osman, Nance, and Kevin Love. Porter
Didn't
not
they announce
Porter not starting. Per a gentleman in our Slack, or in premium, not premium, in YouTube chat, Kevin Porter Jr. forgot to wear his jersey and is thus no longer starting.
Hold on. I'm going to go put on I'll be right back.
You have a Kevin Porter jersey to put on?
No, but I just got it.
While Eddie goes to do that, you guys should head on over to SuperDraft right now. I'm saying right now like I'm Chris Baggs. $36,000 jump shot is their top contest. It's $12 to get
positivity.
in. $7K to first. They have just under 2,000 entries in the contest now. 3,500 need to fill. So they're about 1,500 short. But right now, 20 minutes ago, it's looking like you're going to get at least some reduced rake. You want to get in this contest. It's going to be the best place you can put your money today in this industry. Go do it now. Go to superdraft.io and use that promo code Awesemo when signing up. I think you can start now.
Okay, I have my cap shirt on.
They went with a different white guy instead.
Ohio. Yeah, cycle them out.
OH.
Sorry?
OH.
Oh, IO, yeah. Hang on, Sloopy. You know the whole thing?
Mildly.
There's
I'm a Pennsylvania guy,
yeah.
so
we had a great
Ohio
Ohioan take an incredibly stupid take at Adam Scher on Twitter the other day. Maybe a nice guy, maybe a smart guy. The take was not a great take, and I was just like, Ohio, we're in there with the durr.
Shocked that there was a bad take on Twitter. It's usually just a place where there are only good. Kevin Porter Jr. checked in for Dellavedova at the 10-minute and 11-second mark. Essentially meaningless.
That would have been a great way to lose the GPP. If someone has him and comes in short by a quarter point, they're gonna be like,
yeah. I mean, that's it's worth probably a 1.5 or so, something close.
Yeah, something around there.
Fantastic job there, Kevin Porter. I don't know how you forget your jersey. I don't know how anybody ever does this, but
that's twice this year. Who was the other guy? Someone was out there in the.
It's more than twice, but the most recent one was like 2-3 weeks ago. I can't remember who it was. Chat, who was it?
There was the untucked one, the Jordan Bell untucked jersey.
Yes,
at the whole thing. That's the only second one I can recall with neglected to wear jersey, but there it is. Soderomsky on
Jake Puddle. Malik Monk.
Yeah, Monk was one.
Yeah,
that's definitely
Monk is one I remember, but yeah, a lot of people saying Jake Puddle.
I don't remember Jake Puddle doing that. That's interesting. You'd think Popovich would have killed him. Like you would have thought that was like, hope you enjoy Rio Grande because it's be a month out of there.
Pop might have had a couple burgundies at that point. Maybe he didn't care all that much. So back to some super draft projections. I'm going to give a couple more off the top of my list. I mentioned Drew Holiday was 4th. Kristaps Porzingis 5th.
9th for me. Maybe 10th or 11th for Alex. I have watched a lot of Mavs basketball, and when Luka is in, he is playing a different game. Like it's just a different game. He plays his Knicks game when Luka's out.
Yeah, and
they changed the entire offensive structure so that they can run things around him, and he spends more time in the high post, and he takes 12-footers, and he just does all this crap differently. And when Luka's in, they run their Luka-based system, which, in fairness, doesn't work when Luka isn't in because you don't have Luka. And you need him to do things that no one else on that team can do competently. They run it with Brunson out there because he can be like a poor man's Luka once in a while.
And whatever they're doing is working because they have the number 1 offense in the league.
Yeah.
Like 2.5 points.
But that involves usually, like, I think it closes out like Porzingis upside. So I have a manual adjustment where I brought Porzingis down a fair bit. Like, obviously, ceiling is there. Matchup isn't a terribly bad one. But the New Orleans defense is better than it currently ranks.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Our most essential command is do not believe your eyes and ears. It's they're better than that. So that affects a little for me. And like, you need something weird to happen to Luka. The number of times that you want like a 9,000, or in this case, a low modifier Luka, where our Kristaps is down to like 1.2, I think was his super draft. You need him you need him to get 50 real up there.
Yeah.
I have him for well less than that. I have him much lower than that. So it'd be interesting to see how that turns out. But I do think that is a very real thing where they just really changed the offensive system they run. Instead of running it through Kristaps, they run it through Luka, and Kristaps becomes a little bit more of a system guy.
Luka, directly after Kristaps Porzingis, 57.1. No multiplier.
I have him directly before Kristaps. Or actually, I have him 2 before Kristaps.
Okay.
I have Vooch sandwiched in between them.
I'm a bit lower on Vooch. Next up for me, Hassan Whiteside.
Yeah.
1.2 multiplier.
I have him 2 spots above. I have him 4. Alex has him 3.
Okay.
It's a good spot.
Next couple guys, Dinwiddie, Randall, Ingram, Ball, Butler.
Yeah, I feel like the Dinwiddie game has to happen, right? Well, it'd be nice if the price comes down first or the modifier goes up, as the case would be. Although he's one of the reasons he's here now is because his modifier is 1.45.
Correct.
Yeah. So, like that game has to come at some point, and this is a pretty strong matchup. Like I don't think it is crazy to think that LeVert is the better player for the rest of the year. That's fine. I can go with that, but not every game. Like Dinwiddie is going to outscore him more frequently than he has.
Yes.
He's snuck him out, but we just haven't had a great Dinwiddie game. And this is a guy who, in games without Kyrie earlier this year, would occasionally really put his thing down. So, yeah, I like taking shots at Dinwiddie at what's been pretty nominal ownership for a while now. And I don't think, like, one thing we're eschewing to talk about here is we're just talking about projections. I like Dinwiddie in this context because, especially in a format like this where you can play anyone, I don't think people want to click on Spencer Dinwiddie's name.
No.
So even if you and I both have him like around our top 10 modified, if you will, ranked guy, I think people are just gonna be like, yeah, I haven't seen it for a while. So I think they go other places. So I'm just sort of intuiting it, but I would think you'd get a really nice ownership level on Spencer.
Yeah, his he just becomes like uninteresting when you see his name for some reason. I don't know why. I'm a big fan too.
Yeah, he's he likes him some numerology. I don't know if you listened to his excuse for changing his jersey number.
I did not.
It's something. Like he
Okay.
just if you get bored, and by the way, you never checked it. I keep forgetting to send you that other website we were talking about.
Oh yeah.
But I got to send you that. But in addition, go look up what Spencer did when he said when he explained how he changed his number, and it's like my date of my birth and my son's birth are both, and it was when Sagittarius is left of Mercury in retrograde. Like it was a thing. It was okay. It wasn't like Kyrie offensively stupid, but it was definitely weird. It's fair to say.
Do you have anybody ranked highly in SuperDraft that Alex seems to have a bit lower?
Well, let's pull mine up on monitor 2 and Alex on monitor 3.
We'll use me as the tiebreaker.
I have Shabazz Napier 13th. Alex has him 20-something.
I am team Alex on this one. I have him 28th.
Okay. I have Ja Morant 17th. I think we didn't talk about the Grizz maybe enough. There is some interest in Dillon Brooks and Morant. I have Ja Morant 17th. Alex has him 5 or 6 spots below that.
I have him 24th.
Okay, so it's 0 for 2 for me, or at least I'm in the minority in those cases. I have a dog who has come in and is being very loud.
I just got a picture of my dog on my phone. He's upside down and smiling. Yeah,
my Boban is very cute up there. He hopes to get into the game tonight, but with Kristaps back, Boban had a monster game against the Boban. I think had his best game of the year. Not my dog, but Marjanovic.
Yeah, he went out there and played, huh?
Against the Pellies, he had like 40 fantasy points. That was his game this year.
Yeah.
Last year was against Denver.
It was going to happen eventually.
Boban. Yeah, and it's he's productive when he gets out there.
We're getting a lot of questions about Bobby Portis and where we have him ranked. He is not starting. Peyton, Barrett, Harkless, Randall, Gibson.
Yeah, I still don't mind too much. You wanted him starting, I think. I do think that nets out nicely, but
yeah.
It would end up reducing his minutes for me from 28 to 26, I think, and I still like him just fine.
Yeah.
But
I played a bunch on FanDuel, but I'm not too worried about it. If Bobby Portis is playing well, he's just going to get more run, and they're just going to put Taj on ice if it's going well.
Yeah, I think that's totally the case, and he's not. Alex raised him up a little bit in his raw projections, but he's still not ranking for him on SuperDraft. He's not really ranking for me on SuperDraft. In fairness, I've got him in the 50s. I think he's that's for a modified. I don't think he is out of play. No. He's at a 1.9, so you need him to put up like 35 real to be good enough. That's not crazy for me.
No.
But I have him next to Trevor Ariza and I have him with some other guys there that feel like they have safer floor. So it'd be tournament format for me, but I don't mind having some Portis.
I think that Portis is. I mean, previous to this news about him not starting, I haven't made any tweaks. I had him at 9% likelihood of hitting 70.
Yeah, I feel fine with that. That'd be, looking for 39 real or so.
Yeah. Tops on that list is Zion, Karis LeVert, Kobe White.
At 38%, 35 and 32?
Lower on all three of them. 28, 27, 25.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where did you have Zion projected modified exactly? You must have had him a little lower than me then. I had him at 63. I had him at 60. Yeah, I had him in 63 and some change. So I was doing the progression in my head, and I'm like, it should be higher than like 20, but that makes sense then. Yeah.
61.5.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't really change much about Portis at this point with him not starting? Knock him back a little bit?
Yeah, I would move him back. I would take minutes from 28 to 26. I would find those minutes to be slightly more productive because you get less time aside Randall and Barrett. But it would not be a significant change. But I would have been more happy if he started. Better chance to just establish himself and stay out there. But I would not cry in my corn checks.
Wait, what is? Oh, now it refreshed. The SuperDraft site wasn't refreshing, and it was telling me there was like 15 minutes to lock, and then I was looking at my clock, and it said 7:23, and I was about to have like a real freak out, not understanding time. Six minutes 30 seconds to go. This contest is 1,000 entries shy of filling right now.
So let's go, team. Free money, get some.
3,000 entries is the cutoff for whether or not you're basically getting paid to play. Anything north of 3,000 is going to be reduced rake. Anything under that, and they are adding a little bit to the player pool or to the prize pool for you. So get on over to SuperDraft right now. There's about 1,000 spots remaining. You want to get in them. There's about 900 spots remaining. We just got 100 of them right there. $36,000 prize pool, $7K up top. Go check that out.
Nance and Tatum doing some good work.
Wanamaker smashing.
My guys. Yeah, smashing's a bit much. He hasn't left the game, and the other guys checked out. But 4, 2, 1, and 1. Oh, that's pretty good. He's got 2 fouls though. Wanamaker.
Premium Slack said he's at 4x. That's the only reason I said smashing.
Well, let's see. 4, 6.5, 8, 10. I would have him at 10 fantasy points on DK.
I've got 10.9 on FanDuel right now, 3x, which fantastic way to start and all.
Yeah, it's fine. He's got 2 fouls would be my concern.
Yeah.
So Romeo Langford is in there. But it's interesting they went small. They took out Tice and Tatum after 5 minutes, and put in Langford and Cantor. So Wanamaker has not checked out yet, unless I'm missing something. I'm just looking at the play-by-play on ESPN, but he's still in there hucking. So they didn't take him out with 2 fouls.
Steph Curry back tomorrow.
Yep, I saw that. I'm excited. He was really good to start this year. I mean, he's been really good for 5 years, obviously, but the half dozen games we got to start this year from him were sublime. Really missed some Steph in my life. I could watch that guy play ball for a long time. Cantorin is interesting that early. That was not something I would have predicted. Good news for Nance. Good news for, Cavaliers in general. Cantor's on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. 4 minutes to go before lock. 2,700 entries in there, so we're about 700 shy. Guys, this is going to be the best place you can put your money today.
True.
It just doesn't get any better than this. And our SuperDraft projections are free. Just go to Awesemo.com, browse to the SuperDraft projections, and you can get yourself exactly what you need coming straight from the boss man. Let's see. What else should we do here? What else can we touch
let's take a second, target other guys we think are a little unlikely to be clicked on.
Sure.
On SuperDraft.
I think that's a good idea.
So I think Dinwiddie was a good one.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's always unlikely to be clicked on, I think.
I think Gobert is another guy who I have ranked pretty high. I have him top 10. So does Alex. I don't know where you ended up with Gobert.
Gobert is 22nd. So, but he's a point behind Joval, Vooch, Those are the only other two centers right above him. But
I have him slightly over Vooch. So does Alex.
I could pretty
think.
easily make that flip with very little effort. So they're all
But
ostensibly the same.
Similar thing with Vooch. You just look at them as guys who I don't think get clicked on enough, and if they're projecting a point less, like I really wonder how much ownership advantage there is to be gained by clicking on not sexy player, like Donovan Mitchell. I think I have 15th. Alex has a little lower. I don't think many people click on Donovan Mitchell in tonight's contest.
No.
Anyone on the Jazz really. Like I really wonder how well you can do on this site, just small marketing.
Yeah, like I don't think D'Angelo Russell gets clicked on all that often. I don't think Jimmy Butler gets clicked on all that often.
Certainly, especially against Orlando.
Where do you have Thad Young?
Not on my top page. Not far from a 23rd.
Okay.
1.65 is not unappealing.
Yeah. I have him 20th.
Great. It's Laurie is the thing.
Yeah.
Like I just don't know how that plays out. Like the obviously the matchup is supreme and the modifier is nice, but it's really tough for me to get there. I have him with a little over 50. Alex has him near 54 modified. So Alex a big fan, but I have some real concern there.
Guys, 2-minute warning. They're at 2750 in entries. Remember, anything under 3K is going to mean that they are paying part of that player or part of that prize pool. Anything over 3K is reduced rake. Right now, it's looking like you might have some legitimate overlay, and without question, you're going to be getting a bit of reduced rake. We will say this over and over again. I've said it 10 times now on this show, but I have to repeat myself. You cannot find a better place to put your money than a spot where the rake is reduced, and in this case, it might be 0.
It's almost up to 0 with 1 minute and 10 seconds left. It's ticking up, but it's still overlaid. So we're not quite up to paying 0 rake. I'm watching 1 minute and 7 seconds.
Yep.
We're close.
We're just shy of 3K.
We're almost. We're going. There's still negative rake. Still giving you back $12.04 for your $12 right now. 52 seconds.
50 seconds left. If you're getting it over there, Awesemo.com.
Okay. Now you are
site.
paying 1% rake.
There you go. This might fill.
That would be impressive because it's going to have to take 500 entries in 40 seconds. But
hey, you never know. You can put 100. You can max enter with 100. So
yeah, they do have all the bells and whistles in the CSV. 30 seconds left.
300 shy. Look, even the reduced rake is massive, guys. Any percentage point of taking rake away is going to be helping you out tremendously. Kevin Love having a day as well.
Yep. Me.
8-5-1-1 so far.
Yes. They're playing a G League team. Most importantly, game very close.
Final chance to get in at SuperDraft. 5 seconds. If you're not on the site, you probably didn't make it, but you do want to come back in an hour, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Ben Rasa, Jason Roslin doing PGA Live before lock. We're going to be giving away a bunch of tickets to their main golf contest. That's the $10,000 long drive, 2K up top. But we're going to be giving away tickets during their show, so you're going to want to tune into that. And that is it. We are locked for the second time. Another one in the books, Eddie.
Yeah, good show.
Absolutely. We got 1,000 thumbs ups on the show as well, so we greatly appreciate that.
People. Yeah.
We appreciate it, everybody.
Let's do it again.
I'll be right back here next Wednesday.
Me too.
Perfect. Guys, thank you for joining us. Please hit that like button if you haven't done it already. We'll push that number even higher if we can. Small slate tomorrow. I believe just a 4-gamer. Ben and Adam will be here for the strategy show at 9:30. I will have contenders out at the crack of dawn, and then you won't see my smiling face for the rest of the day. I'll be getting the beard removed, and then I'm coming in with a frown on my face on Friday morning for strategy.
Will there be any waxing? Will there be any waxing?
No.
Will there be any tips?
No.
Salvador Dali, maybe?
No.
Shave the middle?
No. Nothing. I might just go straight Hitler. And on that note,
have you ever seen the Michael Jordan commercial where he has the Hitler mustache?
Yes, and that was going to be the next thing I said. I'm just going Michael Jordan Haynes commercial.
If it still cracks me up. Like you have to wonder if he was just like, I'm the most liked person in the universe. Yeah. Let's try a Hitler mustache.
You don't really care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, just Sorry. That one always still amuses me when I see that. I'm like, oh, that was one way to go, Mike.
That's good. And on that note, we are out. Best of luck, everybody. We will talk to you again later.